Ну, здорово, ебать. Здорово. Летим. Все, шлепа, отдыхай. Всё. Всем привет, кстати, да. Всем куку.
Where it's a case of, you mentioned this, John, I'm going to steal your point right now. Hope that's okay. Is that okay, John?
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks, man. So your point was that, you know, they're not doing better than everyone else. Most of the time,
надо сегодня постараться,
staying on course with everybody.
чтобы Livik сыграть.
But I suggested that also they have those big pop-off days, which starts to bring them points ahead. So they were on 40 points ahead, now they're on 20 points ahead, and that's just some pop-off days, which is absolutely fine for them. So if they continue this pace and we keep getting random teams doing well on different days and Mad Bulls just being that glorious consistent at the top, they're going to be coming into the finals with nigh on 80 points if they can keep this up.
Would be pretty spectacular. We'll have to be looking out for the teams that are going to be competing, you know, coming in at over the 4 possible bonus point phases, right? You could potentially see someone on 76 if they do claim all of those 80 points, right? So there's only a 4-point difference, so we're going to be looking out for the teams who will be sat there trying to compete for that sort of position.
Нави в ноке уже, блядь, каким-то боком. А что такое чат? У меня что-то с ютубом? Не помню. Вообще не помню.
Classic big things, right? You know, you never want to play as 4. Playing as 3 applies pressure and encourages you to do better. That is my new phrase and my new saying. And realism is just the creed at which big live by. It's a bit unfortunate for them. I wish they wouldn't.
Так, вот Нави у нас на перекрестке минус Тигзи. Вообще из пизды откуда-то его нокнули. Меку спасут? Да, Меку спасли. А, Матика, вернее. Матика не спасли тоже. Вот вам и старт сразу, блядь, минус 2. Как он фумбобин, теперь Ливик ничего не решает, за него команда не получит бонус-поинты. Получается, что в лиге нет смысла. Ну, получается, что так.
Yeah, usually La Cobraria team, and it might have just been the playing path that they're not able to get up there, or they adjust their approach down towards water treatment, come full contact with TJB. And with TJB being such a volatile team.
Ай, блядь, еще и таким образом. Зато, ебать, помните, когда Нави пушили, ехали яму, тоже на Мирамаре выбивали, он просто по челу проехался, блядь, и не сбил его. И это зарешало. А тут чего просто колесом его чиркнул, все, блядь. Ну, пиздец. Справедливость.
But for me, yeah, TJB, there needs to be some kind of leveling out of that gameplay. I need to see the game where you wipe 2 players from Na'Vi right off the bat every single game. Not just wipe 2 players right off the bat and then next game fall over like a twig in the wind.
Like a twig in the wind.
That's right.
Oh, that's I'm gonna get that on a poster. Put it above my bed. I like it. Twig in the wind.
Twig in the wind. It's a very weak little branch. It's not going to survive the winds that are coming for it in phase 1 of the PUBG Mobile Western Europe.
Some would say that a thin and flexible twig is more likely to stand up.
Опа, юникорна выпустили?
A strong and sturdy.
Или он играл уже, я что-то не обращал внимания.
Sturdy branch that is potentially more brittle.
I never said that it was a flexible twig. This is a very rigid twig.
Okay, a rigid twig in the wind.
There you go. So, you know, you got to be careful, man. You got to get all the information first. You went straight to the assumed.
Интересно, Флаки знаешь, что его тут?
Which is exactly what Na'Vi did as well. They just assumed there would be no one in that area to challenge them, and they move away from.
Ой-ой-ой-ой.
Generally a very safe spot up in La Cobraria.
Ой-ой-ой-ой, хорошо, что у него велички нет. А зачем? А что? Зачем? Ну ты же слышишь, что там релот. Ты же должен понять, что сейчас релот будет. Тебе просто, блядь, проехать 2 метра. Ну ёп.
Hold out, and again, you don't really expect someone from the center of the circle to try and go for these vehicles so madly, so early. But TJB, they want them.
Чё? И тут челики зачем-то поехали из Сан-Мартина? А, я понял, они типа на бетонку, ой, на пожарку на эту поехали.
That is going to be potentially vacated by Game Lord. TJB potentially on the hunt for the rest of Na'Vi though.
Yeah, it looks like they've got a little bit of loot on board and they're going to head on over, but it's Game Lord that we'll have to be aware of. They got caught out by this team. I say caught out yesterday, and I think Game Lord just took the process a little bit too far, in which case they also got caught out in the process. So we got to be really careful, especially playing out in the open ground, like on the ridge sides, the little peaks. A lot of people can see you, and now this is something that Game Lord is going to be extra considerate about in this game, with the circle being so central as well this time around, John. So it's not something that you can, you know, just get away with so easily when you're right on the western side of the circle anymore.
Can't keep getting away with it. It's just not going to work out. The Golden Dorado. I know it's a Dorado, but I call it a Dorado. It's beautiful. Every single time, I'm a fan.
The Golden City of Dorado,
That's right.
Golden Vehicle of Dorado. There you go.
Exactly, that's right. And it rhymes, which means it's true.
Yeah. That's how things work in real life. Ruthless Esports on the south side. Now, this is a rotation that I can respect. I think a fair few times they have got themselves caught down towards Picardo, or towards Pioneers, maybe get themselves caught tangled up in that crossfire, that combat between Nexus and Pioneer that has been popping off recently. And especially if you look at yesterday's VODs and you see how well Nexus is doing.
Здорово,
You don't
здорово.
want anything to do with that.
Ooh. Couple of shots from Take Aim Gaming, not going to slow the approach of the two Shockwave players. Moving forwards, Nightmare cruises on in.
Блядь, да что такое? Да как, сука, как, блядь? Ну что это?
The worst case scenario for Take Aim Gaming. They knock their forward player. The rest of the team going to have to push up to back this up and kind of force themselves into an engagement with Shockwave if they want to stay up as 4. Do they just disengage here?
Трэш.
I mean, for Take Aim Gaming, you leave your boy behind. There's no way you pick him back up. You're down a player right off the bat. And for Shockwave, it's just a case of instantly sweeping that top side because they now have advantage. And there's no way Take Aim Gaming can solidify that stronghold they had on the high ground. So yeah, for Take Aim Gaming, it's just an unfortunate knock that comes through early to a bad nade through the window. A little bit sad for them. TJB down towards water treatment again. I really don't like this position that TJB plays because it's out in the fields and they play several. Well, they play a split here. I know it doesn't seem too much, but with this being Miramar, that is actually quite some distance between these players. And they play it in open fields. I would much rather see them like try and take a ridge side.
Сейчас ВПшки могут на две команды заехать.
With the open fields, it just gives them like very quick routes out of there if they have the vehicles.
Они вроде даже подформили кого-то там, по-моему.
Take some pot shots at them as they're passing through. Again, that is a very, very unlikely scenario either way.
A lot of teams taking early casualties here. Oh, insult to injury. Oh. The boom boom on the replay there. That is not good.
Да-да, по МПЛ.
Just strafes in too early. I mean, hits the window.
Yeah, you can see why he strafes though, right? He sees the player from Shockwave peak. It's actually a good thing to have that replay because it's not technically just a massive misplay from him. He's not aimed it incorrectly. He's just mistimed it. Because he knows he has to get back into cover as soon as that player peeks round. He's completely in the open, but the nade just leaves the hand a little too early. Pioneer taking shots from Eastern Stars. Simmers down to 3, as is Big, who are behind the pack.
Они агрить поехали еще, нихуя себе.
That's on the southeast side. So they're yet to find their way in. Eastern Stars have found themselves a route of ingress, though. This has worked out for them.
And they're spotting Pioneer
Вот так вот.
fairly low, but Kapahala shut down from across the way from the off angle from Pioneer.
Поехали, блять, агрить на первой зоне, красавцы. Ну вот эта позиция хорошая от изумицу. Чётенько.
You take a risk, right? I took a risk as well by inhaling too quickly.
Он же лежит под кем подкрытый, почему его чел в кемпе ничего с ним не делает? Привет, Раню.
But yeah, I think you take the risk if you're Eastern Stars, you try and send central, try and find.
А, сейчас чел приедет по ППшкам прям. Услышал.
Try and set up an impromptu bit of cover for yourself. It's not a compound by any means, but it's somewhere to stay. Unfortunately for them, Pioneer do spot them as they come in, and there's a few off angles already set up by Pioneer. Obviously very.
А куда? Да все, оставайтесь здесь, куда вы едете? Что они делают? Что я думаю насчет Livika? Ничего не думаю. Посмотрим.
Team 2, they are down to 3 as well. Spot TJB, but these cross-compound knocks really mostly focused on damaging the armor, damaging the helmets, right? That's what they're going to be mostly attempting to do because, I mean, the choice is if you get a knock, do you go for the crash? The answer most of the time, especially in this specific engagement between these two teams, is going to be no, right? So you just get that damage on board.
Увести, да, увести вполне, в целом, да. Хоть у медов там и ебанутся какой отрыв, но вести... Вести тоже неплохо играют. Так, и зона. Ну, это бочки будут, наверное, эти ебучие. Да. Зона будет вот тут. Либо вот тут, либо вот тут. Ну, скорее всего, она вот тут будет.
Still, there is one player left behind, probably playing backstop there, just watching if anyone does come their way, supporting the rest of his team whilst they are just on the broad side. But they do get up.
ДМР там уже у кого-то успели потерять. Каким образом? Как вообще, блядь? Они же просто лутаются на краю. Кого-нибудь там встретили.
Heavy shots towards the center there. Difficult territory. Mad Bulls navigating the
А, тут
engagement.
Мэды против юников.
Again, going down
Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой. А чё, а где размен? Ну, сейчас Монки должен разменивать. Ай, хорошо, нормально, все. Мэды без потерь. Помогли им. Здорово. Бля, были бы Нави вчетвером сейчас на этой позиции. Ну, начнем с того, что они бы не были вчетвером на этой позиции. Но так бы они поехали агрить сейчас Мэдов сразу же.
Of the road there, so he's holding down a compound, providing information back to the rest of his team. Fairly bold play here. We'll have to keep very silent as the Arabian champions come through. But this is not a bad idea to hold a player over there. Just in the eventuality, the circle does head down towards the south, also covering your back as you do have to cross that road. Zeric gets back up on his feet, and that's Mad Bull up to
докатались, а нахуй они катались, они же могли просто остаться там в этой, в однушке.
Oh, okay. I guess, I mean, around the outside, right, is where they were trying to hold all of those positions, and Gamelord, I guess, just had those off angles to be able to pick that up. And I think Gamelord also, I think it was Gamelord just took down the Eastern Stars as well.
No, Pioneer. Pioneer were able to get a lot of them down, and I think they just, I think you might be right there, just taking out the final player of Eastern Stars, which sits them out of the game, unfortunately.
That is unfortunate. Nexus spotted by ARB. Up the top of the hill.
Пионеры там что-то посыпались. Минус 3 уже по ним, по-моему. Да, минус 3. Одного добили, 2 нока. А что, у них же хорошая позиция, что там не так могло пойти? Что там могло пойти не так? Да, да, да. Именно там, на Рине, все правильно. А что здесь могло пойти не так у пионеров? Как? Ну они, ладно, резнутся сейчас. А, нихуя себе, какая у нас зона прикольная. Это что такое вообще? Это что, опять город, что ли? Или все-таки будет направо уходить потом? Это, конечно, да.
Again, there would have been an anchor point for the rest of the guys from Rob's Novalla to head over towards. This is playing out very well for Gamelord, and this is an instance where, you know, I can really praise the team that, you know, yes, they've had the circle, right? This is traditionally where they drop, but they made the most out of it. As soon as it dropped here, they were like, right, let's set up in these two really strong high grounds, and we'll play around from there.
Ливик, да, будет ливик.
On the rest of the boys' position.
Если город, то топ-1 для медов. Ну, если город, то это хорошо будет для медов и для Нави. В первую очередь нам сейчас важно за Нави смотреть. ВП игра с двумя родом хорошая, но мне кажется, если бы они фулл... Блять, что? Пионеры! Как? Что они делают? Как они зажимаются в кемпе и получают, постоянно нокаются там? Короче, на тему ВПшек я расскажу. Мне кажется, если бы они фулка играли, может быть, получше было. Да хотя и так хороший результат. На первый день они не очень хорошо начали. Black White 1 в 2. О, блядь. Ну, 12 команд будут играть.
Yeah, they get Yankee back up there, and they're just getting more bodies into the fight, and it becomes infinitely more hard when you got a 1v3 as opposed to 1v2. They had to get at least one clean knock there.
Что-то он немного не рассчитал габариты.
I respected Mir there, you know, he held onto that. TJB crashing into Gamelord. Already a lot of the members are down, and it's really only Victor, so they do move back. Gamelord 3 players knocked. Has to pick up Narvalo first. He's the quickest one bleeding out here. But TJB still with 3. Start to make the push through. Good smokes. Will deny some...
Бля, этот банихоп это такой кринж, пиздец просто. Как конченая механика. Не чтобы добавить просто дополнительную кнопку, чтобы типа ты будешь как черепаха ползти, но у тебя не будет слышно. Или будет прям супер тихо слышно, и то в упоре. Они этого делать не хотят. Зато, блядь, у нас сломанная механика банихопа, которая убирает нахуй звуки. Ты скачешь как ебанат.
Just fully disengage? Do they not even want to take this fight? Because it feels like they have allowed Game Lord a second chance at this when they didn't really need to.
I would 100% agree. I think they were careful because they imagined nades were coming back through. You can see the smokes that were placed down by, I assume, Victor, which are really, really good at denying the sightlines from TJB, but also you got to be careful running through them just in case a nade just pops through the smoke and at your feet, in which case it's bad news bears going forward. TJB looking for some more high ground around this compound. This is right on the northeast side. There's no one else here to provide support to either of these teams.
Valo now in the ground floor. Spots a player upstairs and it's 2v1.
А Виктор-то сейчас чуть не заруинил. Зачем он остановился на лестнице? Так, зона на Нави центровалась, Зави прям фулл в центре сидят. Пожарки, по-моему, они, да, или где там? ВП там с медами что-то воюют. Ну, они просто нокнули Зерыча, возможно, сейчас будет пуш в него. Ну, скорее всего, да, потому что им надо пушить ехать, вон ВП едут уже. Надо продавать Зерыча, или что, они резанулись? Ну, сейчас как сложно будет ВПшкам. Да, кажется, надо ВП правее, наверное, уходить. Нет, там просто спину заехали еще. Там же ЛГ огромная. Можно еще повейти зону. Не, надо было смог кинуть, что-то он как-то... Так, пожарку решают Мэда отдать. Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой! А Бобус тут заныкался где-то, блядь.
As per usual, it is old boy. He's such a dominant force within the lobby at the moment. Instantly hits the first aid kit, back into action once again. There's real no stopping of him once he gets grooving. Right? You know, he just continues to apply the pressure. Mollies do go in. Unfortunately, will get caught by the off angle from Na'Vi. It's only the 2 players though. Again, big sending shots in. These guys have the 3 players. Again, our under pressure team.
А Нави просто сидят, чилят в пожарке. Стоп. ДМР 2 зоны или 3 зоны назад заехали вот в эту позицию. Они вообще, что ли, не двигались? Просто я не понял. Они заехали в позицию, перед ними все было свободно. Вообще все. Они, по-моему, одни из первых в город заехали. И, типа... Они сидят так же на одной, блядь, позиции, они не двигаются вообще, они не улучшают позицию никак. Сейчас Дона съебется от них, и что-нибудь будут дальше делать, вон. Юникорн уже пошел. Их же не пустят в зону. Юникорн с добивом. Минус Мэды. О, Дадаев соло пошел. А где страйкер? А, все, он просто с одного спрея сбрил. Нормально. Зона опять на Нави прокнула. Ну, Нави сейчас выпушат, скорее всего. Потому что у них единственная пожарка в зоне. На них пойдут сейчас со всех сторон. They have a decision to make now, which is, do they try and hold out some of these teams and risk getting knocked? Because if one goes down, the whole thing starts to crumble down around them.
So they have to be really careful. But if they can get some knocks on these players coming out, they could potentially ladder up because they're just forcing teams to stay out in these compounds for longer, in which case they have to fight for longer, and consequently because of that, there can be less teams and they will ladder up even more.
Virtus Pro, 8 eliminations so far, all 4 of them alive.
Привет, Денис, ты чё, бан хочешь?
Little bit shaky on the armor there, but it's still triple threes for Old Boy. A dangerous force to be reckoned with. Big spotted out. Virtus Pro are not done yet. Finding everyone. Julika around the side. Ooh, does get cut down by Wadea on the off angle.
Вообще не пон. Что там произошло?
They have their own problems
Ай-яй-яй.
in the duo from Na'Vi rocking up. Looks like they might be spotted.
Не минуснули, походу, да?
Healing,
Или
it's gonna
что?
work out.
Да. Нет. Пока еще нет. Пока еще топ-6. Все еще живут. Хорошо. Повезло, что он не вышел, хаешку не дал. А вот сейчас даст. Ави живут, но сейчас ВП на них пойдут.
So already, Game Lord in a really good position. And Shockwave is not taking any chances with this chicken dinner.
Oh boy, he's doing so much work. I mean, putting that nade in the back there, excellent. Now need to find Meku, the last player standing for Na'Vi. Nexus are taking heavy punishment as Redox looks for a heal, but they're out in the blue now, so they're just going to wait it on out. Julika looks for the spray.
Просто живи, откидывай смоки, живи. Блять. Кажется, надо было потянуть время, потому что он бы еще пережил, возможно, этого. Он Nexus. Я бы плейс бы еще нажал.
Yeah, it's really hard for him to do anything here because he can't take a full-on engagement with the Virtus.
Ну, кстати, ВП очень хорошо эту карту сыграли. Они из такого говна пару раз выбирались.
Little platform will be the battleground, in which case Shockwave and VP will do battle. And the fact that VP
Но, к сожалению, позиция этих челиков, Шоквейвов, она слишком имбовая. Еще и зона на них прокнула. Ну не, ну тут, блять. Я не знаю, что должно произойти, чтобы ВП выиграли. Вообще unreal. Не, Меку бы и так умирал там.
Go down soon enough. That airdrop might prove to be useful cover if they have a vehicle to crash on in, but I don't think Virtus Pro are going to have that after their long on-foot stretch through the settlement.
The difference between Shockwave and Virtus Pro right now is the Virtus Pro is coming out hot from combat. They are absolutely raring to go. They're fired up. And Shockwave have been so silent this entire time that it might just be a case of advantage that Virtus Pros need, because they will be getting these shots off instantaneously.
О, они лево отдали! Они отдали лево! Найс! Давай! Блядь! Почти! Вот если бы он сейчас нокнул. Блядь, а Шоквейвы совсем ебобо? Так, хорошо. Еще бы кавер нокнуть сзади. Бля, ну зона пиздец давит. Вообще играть негде, там флоу под позиции. Блин, нет! Сука! Учитывая при всем ебланстве этих челиков, Шоквейвов, что они отдали право, точнее лево, позиционка все равно зарешала очень жестко. Но это пиздец какой жесткий проеб был от них. 14 киллов УВП. 14. Бля, какой. Посмотрите. Блять.
But again, that is the kind of Virtus Pro
that like
oh, you're back, okay. You're just playing statues.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, I've just got to
У Тулики 7 киллов, у Тулики больше всех дэмэджа.
If I don't move, they can't see me. Hopefully Tulika doesn't see me because he was fragging out his mind this game.
Yeah, he was very much pumping. I think that's around about half of their eliminations that came through from Tulika alone, and 1200 damage. The 1-2-3-1. Very satisfying. That is some.
Вот выключен был, я его включил, сейчас по идее должен работать.
We thought Oldboy was doing the majority of the damage there, but no. Tulika, in fact, just absolutely dominating from VP.
Давайте я как рыба сделаю. Ебаните лайкос, ребята, давайте поддержим трансляцию. Или что там? Больше лайков, мне пиздец приятно. О, ебать, как же я люблю лайки, господи. Ребята. Или как? Я все правильно сказал, не?
He just said, oh, okay, I guess you didn't listen. Okay, we just.
I heard it.
Okay, cool. You just ignore it. Cool, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, no, what a great game though. Honestly, we were watching that, and when it focused on Haciendo, we talked about Mad Bulls as being like the team in the perfect position, Max. And I want to start off talking about that before we transition to Shockwave a bit.
Красава.
Because obviously the
Без
zone-
50 рублей останешься без последних.
Yeah, I mean, that push from Virtus Pro was on point onto that position of.
Короче, я
Mad
пошел
Bulls. Like,
курить.
Mad Bulls had the perfect position
Я пойду
earlier when
себе
Circle started going
похавать
towards
что-нибудь
San Martin
разогрею.
because they saw a lot of the teams that were trying to enter through San Martin, so they just played on the edge. If it moves away from San Martin, they're going to gatekeep all the teams.
Сан
moving.
Мартин.
If the circle goes towards San Martin, they're already there and they can gatekeep teams trying to enter San Martin. It's a really good position to offers you a lot of possibilities later on down in the game. But this time, you had Virtus Pro banking onto the eastern side, smoking out all of the entry points. You had like 4 or 5 entry points in that warehouse, and they just clear every single one of them with those smokes, denying visibility, and then they can just push the building, eliminate one, two extra players from Mad Bulls, and then just clear the entire team. So that breach from Virtus Pro was on point and just enabled all of this end game to happen for them in the first place.
And yeah, Shockwave, I mean, to be fair, I did notice Shockwave as well, and I mentioned when we're talking about Mad Bull, that it's very dangerous the position they're in because it's very gimmicky, right? If the zone goes their way, then they're looking good. If it doesn't go their way, well, you have to push into the city, which is going to be very difficult to do. It's a tough decision, I guess we should say, Max, but in the end, it worked out for him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that by being in a position like that, you're almost 100% certain a fight will come your way eventually. It's just how prepared are you going to be for that fight? And unfortunately for them, it seemed like Virtus Pro were just a little bit more prepared for it. So all good on their side. But yeah, we had some decent early game action here. TJB, unfortunately, I promised a Turkish kebab, but he's not interested. I'm telling you, Jason, GKFS not interested with the Turkish kebab. Feels bad. Maybe if I say 2 Turkish kebabs, GKFS will maybe step it up a little bit. But yeah, you can see we're going to see the breach eventually coming up here when you're going to be seeing that engage happen. Game Lord also getting a good game, and there. This is the moment Virtus Pro looking like, okay, we get the first knock, we can close that gap. You can see in the background they're smoking all of the entry points, denying visibility, and then oh boy, as Blank said earlier, like really going at work in this game and just doing most of the heavy lifting in that fight versus Mad Bulls. But man, to look at the end there, Jason, really doing a lot of work to like offer a really prime angle for his team.
Yeah, the thing is, Virtus Pro, again, pick up a massive amount of eliminations in this match, and we've been talking about them time and time again. They've been trying to close that gap up against Eastern Stars in our top 4, and they might have been able to do so here off of this match. And what's so crazy to me is, like, we know Old Boy played with Navi back in PMGC, was it last year, if I'm not mistaken, maybe it was the year before, and he wasn't, and then we had Kitsune come into the team as well from Cloud9, but Kitsune wasn't allowed to play. We saw the Between the Battlegrounds where Old Boy wanted to bring Kitsune back into the team. This man has just so much depth of knowledge in this game and so much experience behind him, and he still has the mechanical skill to support all this. He really is a massive threat and such a big asset to any team, and I think we're seeing Virtus Pro rise to be one of the newest, or the new strong teams here in this region.
Yeah, I mean, purely was how, sorry, I was going to say Navi because I'm so used to saying Navi for Old Boy. When they were deciding to approach that compound of San Martin, they were fully like led by Old Boy. I have the impression he was the one going for the pushes initially. The team was behind him, following up in really, really good fashion. The march was clean. And then he just like gave the upper hand to Tulika, and Tulika went on that push towards Shockwave over to the northwestern side, denying the angle of the 2 players on the forefront from Shockwave that were in that position where Game Lord was standing. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed what Tulika did. Unfortunately, the moment Tulika goes down, Shockwave now get the upper hand, and then they can close off the game. So Shockwave, able to put some really good fight, and they got 2 really good circles up north, but they were not idle, Jason. That's the most important thing. They were willing to send 2 players forward, push on Game Lord, eliminate the entire team, then shift the focus on the rest of Na'Vi. So, I keep saying Na'Vi, Virtus Pro. So overall, it's just force of nature now, force of habit. But yeah, Shockwave, I think that they've made some big changes. I had the chance to talk to their coach Zozo, and they've made a lot of changes in the background. He didn't want to tell me what, but all I got to say, the results are here currently, so Shockwave are looking very impressive.
Kalaris is actually from the other side, from the void that he's currently living in, actually brought up a good point when it comes to Shockwave. And if you look at their like previous results so far in this event alone, and I'm just pulling up on my screen, which is why I'm looking over here, they've had like this massive drought. Like they had in match 2 a second place finish, and then they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 matches before they have a podium finish yet again, where they get a third, a first, a second right in a row, and then they have a 14th and a second, fourth. Like something has definitely changed in the team. Maybe it's that like learning period for them, as we've been talking about, because they have completely become a different team here in this last couple days alone. Yeah,
as I said, I talked with a coach on Instagram, and he did say they made some really big changes, went back to the drawing board.
They won't tell you.
Yeah, I want to have them for an interview because they speak French. I could potentially I could translate again if needed. Okay. But it would be cool. I really want to have some insight on what changed between the first part of this phase and what we're seeing now, because it's night and day what is happening for Shockwave. And man, guys, keep it up, because currently looking great. They're looking to make it into the livik, and they are looking to be potentially a top contender if they keep these results in.
You know, it's crazy, right? Going into this event, if you look at like the French teams, you'd be like, okay, Game Lord's probably going to be the French team over Shockwave just from prior results. You look at the CIS teams, Navi probably going to be the best team over Mad Bulls, over Virtus Pro. And it's like the whole script has been flipped here, because you got Mad Bulls towards the top, Virtus Pro towards the top, and you have Shockwave towards the top. And the teams that we expected to do well have yet to really hit that level of momentum or that level of consistency that we expected. So some crazy things happening so far, Max, but we obviously do have our second map coming up momentarily, and it will be over on Sandhawk. And we know one thing about Mad Bulls is they're extremely good when it comes to Sandhawk.
Yeah, I mean, they're super quick to make their decisions and act on those decisions in particular. So, yeah, I think we can expect some good stuff potentially from Mad Bulls. But, I mean, can't expect good stuff from Mad Bulls this game because they're not playing. So,
I was checking. That's what I was looking over. I was like, are they playing?
I checked too. I was like, maybe not. But, yeah, they're not going to be playing this one. That's fine. But we're going to be seeing then Unicorns of Love come into this one. We're going to see X-Team, Codex, Death Machine. I want to see if Death Machine can keep getting some good results in, because currently they were looking really good in this second phase. And I hope they can potentially keep some results going in. But in particular, I still want to see TJB. I think that's the team we're still looking at. They keep changing their drop locations a little bit all over the place. It's kind of like testing the waters, kind of. But hey, yeah, we need to see some consistency. We need to see something out of them, because right now they've just been inexistent in this event.
I mean, you're talking about wanting to interview Shockwave. I want to interview TJB and ask them, why have they changed their heal strat in Sandhawk? That was not a pivotal like strategy for them when it came to last season, but it was one of the strategies that made them so consistent in getting points. Like, why change it all of a sudden? Maybe they're expecting changes in the future. You remember during PMWI, when it came to our after party showdown, the circle did take for more, the blue zone did take for more, so you're actually unable to heal after, I think, the 5th zone, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe they're expecting changes like that to come into effect for PMGC. Maybe I'm just BSing right now and I have no idea what I'm talking about, which is very likely. But I do wonder, like, why would they change something that was so good for them?
Yeah, I mean, they were getting hot dropped by Demuerte and Same, so that, of course, is an initial issue, because it's the best position is Same to get all that loot, to be able to pull off the heal-off strat. And also, so many other teams are doing the heal-off strat, so you're not consistently going to get a 2nd or 3rd place like we saw last season. And especially, you got, like, Take Aim Gaming that is really good at the heal strat. They've been consistently pulling it off really well with high...
С донатами, кстати, также работает. Вы донатите 100, и завтра у вас под подушкой 200.
So I think it is a good change, but they need to find another plan, and right now they haven't found it yet, and they need to find it soon, because the more days pass without a plan, the less points they're going to bring into to be able to rank up high on the leaderboards.
We'll see if they can rank up some points here, actually, as we're going to have our commentators to drop into Sandhawk with John, Allen, and Blink.
Sandhawk it is, up on the menu, ready to go for another round in the jungle. Having our very own little rumble blank.
Я, кстати, так и не покурил, держу в курсе.
Honestly, I'm excited for this one.
Привет, Марш.
Sadly, some of the big teams that we want to talk about aren't actually playing this. We don't have Game Lord or the guys from Mad Bulls playing with us. So
я не покурил, и я сейчас иду курить. Я ел чизбургер. Могу себе позволить. Вот я ел чизбургер, да. Кусочка. Пойду курну быстро. Тут все равно пока ничего интересного особо не будет начать. Так.
228 behind Mad Bulls at 263. So that 60-point lead has dropped to a... I think that's more like, you know, just around about 35. So we're happy days here for Virtus Pro, and they're playing in the Sandhawk. From that eastern side, we'll see what they can get done, but this would be a great chance with Mad Bulls not being in the lobby for them to kind of even out things.
Plane path starting to allow these drops. Looks like Big are back to their old tricks on the northwest. Not going down south this time around, no. They are going back to their basics, so Na'Vi will have to readjust to that, remember the old ways. Eastern Stars as well, going to be spreading out potentially a little bit further north than that wide east coast spread we saw on that northwestern island over the last couple of days. And actually sending 2 over to the mainland.
Yeah, usually dropping over towards Hattin. And it makes sense that they would drop a couple of players over towards this compound as well. Again, Game Lord, Mad Bulls not dropping in this match, so a lot of space over towards that northwest side, so they can comfortably take this to basically 2-1-1 split. So it works out quite nicely for them. In the meantime, Death Machine are taking Paradise Resort, and they perform quite comfortably over towards that central side of the map, and Paradise Resort is really good for it because there's a lot of capability to do some scouting. They usually try to drop over this side of the map anyway, but it's difficult with Mad Bulls over towards Paradise Resort because they've got such a chokehold on that position that if they drop in the game, there's rarely any teams that challenge them anymore. And typically Paradise Resort is one of those places on the map where you might see now and again a couple of hot drops just to test it, but I don't think anyone wants to test Mad Bulls because at the moment they're hitting full marks across the board.
Really are, really hard to deal with. Shockwave did a massive split drop. There's one towards Barn, there's one to the northwest of Quarry, there's one to the southeast of Quarry, and there's one all the way down even towards Docks. Not quite all the way in there, but they've massively split over this main island for Shockwave, which is interesting, to say the least. Very close to TJB for a couple of these players. As Painan, we come on board with Nexus and Codex. This is interesting. We normally see a west-east coastal split. We don't generally see this sort of north-south split.
Not really.
Not as much.
This is a little bit different, and I think that Nexus was hoping to drop on one of the players from Codex. It's been happening very frequently, where they're able to drop on one of the players and then quickly sweep the rest of the team. So I actually don't mind that from Codex because it does eliminate the possibility of, you know, you lose one player, then you lose the rest, just because Nexus is able to quickly sweep both sides. But with them taking the 2-2, you know, it actually does give you an opportunity now. Oh, Trazen, be careful. Does give you the opportunity now to just chill with it. Maybe gets back into cover. Wow, that is lucky.
Right on the mark. I mean, Shockwave. This is the massive split from Shockwave. They're paying the price for that. No backup. They did. There was a backup player, I think, at the top of the hill for TJB. So they can go for that trade, even if Tingsko gets knocked. I mean, you lose a player for Shockwave either way. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. You just want to disengage from those situations, but Shockwave are too far apart.
Yeah, TJB been causing some problems in the side of the map. I'll put it that way. And I think it's been quite a few times now where we've seen TJB drop to the west side of Quarry, drop towards the top of Mongnai, dropping towards Ban. Like, Shockwave, you can tell they're a team that are invested now in macro over everything. They just want to get into a solid position with 4 players alive. Yeah, that massive split is not always the best way to do it, but if they want to get looted early in not the most ideal of situations with these kind of rubbish compounds around them, they need to do it this way. They kind of expected TJB to be more over towards the west of Quarry, and Tradesman feels comfortable to pass through Barn. Unfortunately, TJB just read that in the meantime, and we'll just pick them up. So, good play from TJB. Unfortunate for Shockwave. It feels like they did do their homework there, but they were caught out by TJB's randomness on Sandhawk.
Codex and Nexus, no one pulling the trigger on this engagement. Looks like it's not a fully looted situation as well. I mean, potential that they have managed to get what they're looking for, but you can see no meds on board. Just the one smoke and a low HP bar. Not ideal. I feel like Nexus are winning this engagement, despite it not really popping off.
I would say that Codex has succeeded, actually. I mean, you can say that they succeeded because they haven't died in the first 2 minutes, which is typically what happens to them. The fact they've lived this long, yeah, they're kind of winning the engagement short for Nexus, but at the same time, for Codex, this is certainly a success for them, right? They get a little bit further into the game than usual.
I imagine that they might be suffering from that success a little bit later on, though, with their low on those meds, low on that loot, having to move in what is a pretty crucial rotational area for teams on the southwestern island as well, across those Pine Arm bridges, towards those hills up to the east if it goes to the mainland. And similarly, if it goes to the southwest island, a crucial crossing point. So being in the line of fire with low loot, far from ideal. Looks like they are going to regroup, though, and go back to the coast-to-coast split.
I mean, there is a ton of loot in Painan, right? So they should be able to get something on board. Again, it's a case of having to watch the angles, but one person can do that while someone else goes through a little bit of loot. Michu, bit of a dangerous
Как он со стулом
crossing at
сидит?
the moment.
Нормально?
Luckily for him,
В принципе,
Nexus
особо ничего не поменялось,
fully
да?
made the move up to the end.
Так, а куда я
And
наушники
now they
делал?
regroup. And this is
Ah,
kind of
it's not
sending
there. Okay.
Nexus for a little bit of a loop, because this time Codex is showing them something different, which is a bit more of a slow game, which I'm happy to see. I think Codex has been a little bit too fast-paced recently, not been able to, slow things down enough for themselves, where they're actually able to get.
Сегодня до конца стрима. Слушай, я не знаю.
Matches.
Посмотрим.
Typically, what happens is they'll have to move up towards that northern side. They take the hill. Arab champions, Pioneer cuts them off. And now, I think for Codex, the big thing for themselves is not to get too caught up in this engagement between them and Nexus. They don't have to take down Nexus.
Что я пропустил? Я ничего не пропустил, собственно. Просто 7 минут ничего не происходило.
Drop some smokes, potentially if you get shot at. You can get out of dodge, and already Vito's sent all the way up there. But it's Pioneers who are watching down. This is more over towards Navi. This is a typical crossing.
Ну давайте, ребята, 100 лайков дожмем. Еще чуть-чуть. Лайки очень люблю я. Очень нравятся лайки.
RV are all four still alive, which is good news. This early on. Be big went to the southwest.
Обмазываюсь ими.
Teams are starting to congregate around the west side.
Улика там решил бабуса взорвать. И себя еще. Блять.
And knocked out in the open. Old Boy and Tulika, the two massive hitters from the last game, right? They're just going to get taken down out in the open. Versus Pro down to 2 very early.
Мы будем вдвоем доигрывать. Опа, 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 опа. Так, что у нас тут? Пожилой ДБС пошел. Минус 3 просто. Засек. За атосекунду просто минус 3. Пиздец. Че, я думаю, проиграю, я думаю, что они проснутся еще. Че, еще не время. Опа, заспотали. Ой-ой. 0 аптек. Он же видел его, не? Не, Блэквайт вообще, походу, не видит. Сейчас 1 в 4. Ну, первый на очередь Блэквайт тут намечается на ног. Бать, он уверенно пошел. Добить, добить, добить! Добил. Плюс поинт. Ну вот зачем они? Зачем Блэквайт так полетел? Зачем? Вот зачем? Без размена еще. Они же знают точно, где находится соперник. Просто на ровном месте проебали игрока. Здорово.
I feel like you might have been able to get one more knock, but it is that flush point that you're looking for because you're likely to go down. So that was a tactical decision there to commit to just getting a point on board for the game. But Na'Vi do fall nonetheless. Big. It feels like they just have been shut down a couple of times now on these rotates.
И ники бегов прям плотно не пускают.
They must have spotted those parachutes going over to the north side because they are back to their old tricks holding. They didn't send out east early, which they saw that they did when Big weren't in the game.
Да что ты? Блять, спасибо, что не нокнулся. Просто АФК лежит.
Mihi actually does get flushed out there. Again, I like this from Take-Aim Gaming. They know Big is in the lobby, so they hold on Ruin side, they hold towards Bridge. I said this yesterday when we were playing Sandhawk on the last, I think it was the last match of Sandhawk that we watched. The Take-Aim Gaming actually
Там прогруза, по идее, сейчас уже не будет.
the confluence compound on the walls, which is the smart play because Na'Vi's not in
А, нет!
so they can pick that up.
Они въебали? А что? Зачем? Зачем он, блядь, развернулся? Нахуя?
And that's what you want to see from a team. Unfortunately, Take-Aim Gaming just aren't finding the shots that they're looking for and already happy down to Beast. I think that's a heads up scout from Beast as well. Understanding, that's probably one of the biggest crucial spots for Take-Aim Gaming is on top of the bridge to try and
Просто проехаться еще чуть-чуть, и у чела угла не будет. Просто заехать за кемп, и там уже разобраться, либо в кемп крашнуть, либо просто в камне сзади. Ну, блядь, ну так просто разворачиваться на ровном месте, ну хуй знает. Колесо? Не думаю. Он же ехал по прямой траектории, а потом резко просто направо дал. В топ-16 надо попасть, Дамир. Привет.
I noticed about TJB is that they're very tunnel visioned.
Хорошо дела.
Some engagements, which is why you do see a fight between TJB and Na'Vi go so well because Na'Vi is just very much death ball. Like you don't have those off angles, and when TJB comes up against someone where it's like it's very clear.
Ну, на лайте они катали, если бы они были там где-нибудь на 8-м месте или на 6-м. Это был бы лайт для них. Судя по всему, у них что-то не получается.
they can really work on is that tunnel vision because it is really.
Что, это опять что ли у кодексов зона будет?
Next circle coming in fairly soon. Big yet to leave that northwestern island. They haven't made that crossing down south. Take-Aim Gaming haven't taken that compound as well, so there is that opportunity to just go for the Na'Vi crossing. So it shifts up north, so that might be probably the best play for Big. They can get over to the compound on the eastern side of that shore.
Стоп! ВПшки подняли олдбоя. ВПшки олдбоя рестали каким-то макаром. Видели? Как он там, блядь, вообще дополз? Команды выделить? Ну, из наших, если... Да наши вообще в целом все нормально играют. Плюс-минус. Было бы вполне ожидаемо, что наши будут здесь фаворитами. Ну, и Steam мне нравится, как играют, и Steam хорошо играют. Беги. Ну, беги по стрельбе жесткие. Там прям вообще все залетает. И по мувменту тоже они очень жесткие. Кто приз за первое место? Банка Ягуара. Превью на новое? Какое превью? Какое-то превью стоит там? Я не ставлю никакое превью. Он автоматом ставит.
Really ringed in here. All 4 players inside this compound for both teams. And it is dangerous. It's really, really close quarters.
Take-Aim Gaming, it's difficult to take any peeks from here either. I say that as Redux just nails the shot.
Не совсем я понял, зачем юники вчетвером зажались на одной стороне, имея под контролем такой кемп. Они же должны понимать, что с Пайнана сейчас кто-то будет выходить. Возможно, под них. Блять, как же плохо, господи, как же плохо. Это прям очень плохо было сейчас от юников. Прям пиздец плохо. Прям отвратительно, блять, фу. Просто пиздец. Как будто 4 АФКшников убили. Реально, как будто, блядь, убили 4 АФКшников. Розен в прайдах играет.
Who were able to pick up one of the flushes from their side. Looks like it was because they got the full team wipe onto Na'Vi, currently at 5 eliminations. Pioneer being a little bit more aggressive today, which I really appreciate. I think it's something that we talk about quite a bit, is that, you know, their macro game very strong, but they're 1-to-1, like head-to-head. It's not the best thing in the world. You know, that forehead just a little bit soft at the moment, but starting to get a bit tougher as they take more of these fights versus other teams.
Ruthless Esports on the east side right now, coming out of the quarry, emerging, hopefully unscathed, but ARB are right there in the way. Centers up. VP right on the crossroads still, with those 3 players alive. You're talking about it earlier, able to hold it out until there's a lot of focus sent that way.
Что ДМР сейчас будут делать, интересно? Направо не пойдут уже на гору, их не пустят кодексы. Только через Nexus идти, кем пушить?
It's quite tough to hold this out as 3, but it looks like they're really putting all their attention towards that north side and making sure east and west is cleared. Shockwave make a smart rotation, see that down towards the southeast. They know the 4 Romanian men aren't in the game at the moment, so they can quite comfortably take that southeast. That's typically the 4 Romanian men's rotation. Codex, though, getting a little bit caught out here, and the predictions come through for Jason going for Virtus, Max with Pioneer, and
Я тоже не
with
обратил
Nexus
внимания.
here. It's going to be a tough push for Nexus to hit through Arab champions, but we'll see what they can do, because they're already right on top of the compound. You can see them here priming the nades.
Pushing forward, Shockwave might spot PNL here. They should do, certainly. I think he might be on the outside. On the lie down. They have not spotted the outpost for Codex just yet. It might only be a matter of time. In the meantime, Ruthless Esports spot Hamodi. They move through towards Jamaz on the other side of the wall, right on over its poker, sending it with the UMP back towards cover, but not quite able to get away without getting taken down. Flushed out by Wadea as well. And ARB gets some sort of revenge, but it's only Wadea now left standing.
Yeah, Ruthless Esports have a fair way to push through. Next on that west side, still holding both sides of the road with 4 players as well. I think their biggest chance.
Сейчас, если Йолы закрывают EST, у них лес хороший перед ними. Либо они могут в кемп уйти, верхний, который в зоне, подождать зону. Если это лево, они перебегут дорогу, если это право, уйдут в лес обратно. Я не знаю, как Олда резнули там, каким-то чудом. А чё, стоп, ну да, ДМР пошли пушить кемп, судя по всему, неудачно. Вот что мешало юникам точно так же встать просто и все, закрытие. Я нахер они все упоролись четвером на ту сторону, и вообще никто из спину не чекал. Ну, кстати, четенько сейчас они сыграли.
A lot of points being just swept up, slurped up by the Unicorns, and they look for another onto Ruthless.
Becomes a little bit more. Unicorns are love heavy right now, who are currently just trying to finish the final players of Ruthless Esports, as well as the Eastern Stars, who are held out inside the blue. So where to get a little bit of revenge.
Интересно, Йола шарит, что кем свободен у них?
They were able to find Striker on his approach in the vehicle. We're looking to get their player back up on board, but it's Death Machine. Again, that's
должны забирать. Ну посмотрим. ВП просто много чего надо закрыть сейчас.
Unicorn, DBS in hand, very dangerous to get them a little bit too close to their compound here. Sarah's just providing that information back, John.
Doesn't really have any ordnance to chuck on in, and Nexus used a lot of engagement with taking gaming in this very compound. They will have to hold it out this time around. They will be on the defense. A first knock goes through, and Nexus are down to 3 for the time being. Octavian wants to put nades in. A lot of damage sent towards Demuerte. A lot of them taking
не успеют они сейчас от зоны.
Gonna claim it. Not quite. Yes, there it goes. And there's the knocks. Nexus should be safe. But they are down to 3 in the meantime.
Yeah, they have to leave. Duarte has again caused problems as a
Minus
team that does
60.
this quite frequently. Tried to get a few knocks on towards him. Now they're just going to try and go for the heal strat over off in the distance. That's with Dadaev.
Да, его на перехил оставили по классике.
Doran tries to move in the room to pick up as many meds as possible, but they've already been all dropped over towards Dadaev. So
Как же прокнуло жестко прям в кем.
That is unfortunate for the team. We see Doran actually go down to the blue on the map. And with that, Nexus's run is kind of taken short by Demuerte trying to take down as many teams as possible so Dadaev can survive for longer.
Hang on a minute, Dadaev did also just die, but that's, yeah, it doesn't even matter. That is really, really unfortunate. Blue Zone claims victim. Beast hits the final shot over towards Redox. We're down to 5 teams blank at the moment. Only Ruthless have a healer out in the zone now.
О, мир дополз, кто его резнули, хорошо. Да, ну дальше очень сложно будет. Только по смокам. Там еще Йолы справа контролят. Опа, вот эта хаешка может сейчас зарешать. Только надо было ее потаймить, а не просто так выкинуть. Обидно. А, беги, просто чилят, ждут. Минус ВП. А, нет, еще мир живет. Просто, блядь, сиди нахуй. Ничего не делай. Ты беги, возможно, хаешку сейчас кинут ему. Но бегам 100% надо через них идти. Телексы просто хаешки свои выкидывают из кемпа.
Unicorns with their focus onto the Death Machine compound, onto the building that they hold right now. Heal did go.
О, как четенько это крипто делают, посмотрите. Он сразу пошел угла в другую сторону давать, чтобы еще и бегов потом закрыть. Красавцы. Бля, Ролкис нокнулся, ему нельзя было нокаться. А крипто не должен был пропускать. А, ну вот этот второго он точно не должен пропускать. Хорош.
Slinks out from behind the rock, finds the spray that they were looking for, flushed on out. And it's all down to the
Что у нас? 2-1-1? Или чё? А, он резает все. А чё он сидит, блядь? Бля, эти десы это вообще такие бездари.
Finishing the game with maybe 12 eliminations would be really nice here on Sandhawk as well. A full 27-pointer. Ruth Esports, Nano. It will take this quite far into the match, but it will be going out now in 4th place. Yeah, I think Death Machine really caused themselves some massive issues. They had to take the fight versus Virtus Pro, but decided not to. Unicorns are love with 3 players. It's down to the 2 solos here.
Here's the thing, though. The Unicorns don't need to go in and take this risky fight in close quarters. You know, if you push 2 players in, because you do need to keep a backstop that you could just get shotgunned, you could just get DBS'd around the side. Beast hops out of the building under the sightlines of Icy and actually gives himself a chance to take a 1v1 as 2 players move into the building. One gets knocked.
Еще Ролки, он двоих нокнул. А чё, зона-то? Успеет, не успеет? А куда ты один выпрыгиваешь, бездарь? О боже мой! Как же он заруинил, какой же Ролкис бездарь, просто пиздец! Ой, бля, ой, блядь! Ой, блядь! Все понятно, короче. Боже, блядь! Просто, блядь, знаешь, что против одного останется, он выпрыгивает на лоу-хп в форточку прям под него. Да. Закрыл, проверяй.
Unicorns are loved though. Again, another missed win, and it feels so bad.
Yeah, it's got to be a little bit of a stinger there for Unicorns of Love. Highest damage for Crypto, but Beast taking that 1v3 at the end. I mean, the 1v1 with Icy necessary, and that was what they had to.
Просто, блядь, ошибка на ошибке. Сначала Дезы, блядь, сидели, что-то там не могли ничего сделать, один чел. Там Юолы. Да Крипты ж нокнули. Вот в чем проблема. Или ты имеешь в виду, когда еще на дорогу он перебегал? Там два чела перебегал, одного нокнул, а на второго не успел. Чем второго нокнул, а на первого не успел. Да.
Turkish kebab.
Wow. Amazing. So for people who didn't hear me because I was muted, I
Based.
muted myself. You'll never believe what the
Или
guest has
кринж,
to say.
или база.
That was a good game.
Вот, решайте сами.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
Да, да,
Pretty decent.
да, да.
Well, that is pretty standard how a clickbait goes. You're not really surprised by the answer, and it's pretty dull. But gentlemen, I mean, that was a great game, though, actually coming in for big. Somehow turning that around. Unicorns of Love looking phenomenal to get themselves a chicken dinny on their side. But unfortunately, Swave had something to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all Beast in particular.
Beast, sorry.
Yeah. No, Beast in particular. It was not an easy rotation, but as the caster stated during that game, the smokes thrown down by Virtus.pro onto Death Machine's position allowed Unicorns of Love to get closer, allowed Big to get close, and the moment they get in range and they have a few hiding spots, they can play around it. And that 1v2 at the end, like being in that little building and you having to jump out the window, you can't shoot while you're in the animation, so it's a pretty easy elimination to come in the way of Beast.
Is Big suddenly the crusher of Sandhawk again? Because I mean, like, the way that they were coming in from the west side, I thought was going to be Pioneer's path to victory. However, it wasn't. Beast came in north of them, was able to take them out. That's a very important moment considering that rotational move into the later circles, and then somehow, some way makes it happen in these final moments. I'm in awe, to be honest with you. I did not expect them to be able to get this victory.
And they're back to their old drop against Na'Vi. I feel like the confidence is back for them. They're feeling really good. They're feeling on a high currently. And sure, it's not like the clean win where you get yourself like 3-4 players still alive at the end, but it is still big. Like
Да, при всем уважении к юникам, я что-то вообще их пока не вижу. Я вообще их не вижу на протяжении всего турнира. Они вроде что-то как-то там где-то лутают какие-то поинты, но, блядь, в очень важных моментах они не показывают должного.
They've been stepping up that we needed to see. Again, we see Na'Vi here with a really low point finish. Eastern Stars, though, in particular for me, is the one I'm worried about because they were second place, and yet they have not really done much, I feel like, these last 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, they've been just consistently getting a few points here and there, right? Enough to remain in that first place, but with how Virtus.pro has been popping off in terms of eliminations today, I think there's a very big chance. I don't know when we're going to look at the rankings, but I'm pretty sure Virtus.pro overtook Eastern Stars currently and potentially are chasing down that position of Mad Balls because they eliminated Mad Balls a few times actually today. So, yeah, Virtus.pro currently looking like a very dangerous foe for some of the top teams.
Yeah, and I feel like they actually... So my prediction actually was Virtus.pro because they had the zone center on them so well in that compound at that little crossing. But unfortunately, the shift away kind of broke my heart, but I'm kind of used to it now. But here you can see Beast in the last few moments. As you're saying, Max, there's no way... Actually, I think it was... actually, Clara's saying. I always get you two mixed up because you're so alike.
Бля, жалко нельзя в лайве ставить на эти матчи. Мы бы такие бабки с вами поднимали. Просто по первой зоне видишь в лайве и по второй. Чтобы они давали, типа, поставить до второго прока. Или до третьего. Было бы вообще идеально. Ебать, Такие можно было бы бабки делать.
It's actually possible to see some overalls here. I want to get an idea of where teams are currently standing. Remember, Mad Bulls had a 60-point lead over other teams, but we need to keep an eye on this because it does determine how many points you get at the end of the day into the finals. And you can see here,
О, ВП на второе место, кстати, прыгнули, нихуя. За счет того, что мир там пожил сейчас. За счет того, что еще олдбой поднял. Короче, эту катку они нормально сыграли. Вначале был пиздец, я думал, все, но нормально. Напрокало и плюс хорошо сыграли, вышли из кемпа. В целом, типа, раз, два, три, четыре, пять команд наших в первой половине. А 3 команды вообще, они почти на первых 3 местах. Ну, тут вообще одинаково поинтов. Считаю, что пионеры должны быть здесь. Неважно, что там по поинтам. Первые 3 места держат наши чуваки. Уважаемо.
Especially from a team that would say Virtus Pro, first 3 days of this phase didn't really show up too big, right? They were just in the, like a middling team. Mad Bulls always consistent, getting that big pop off there at the start, then kind of middling, but still remaining consistent. The fact that they caught up so much so quickly in 3 days alone is astonishing. So man, Virtus Pro, they're feeling good in this lobby, and they're here to clap some people here along the way.
Ну вот Нави за счет прошлой катки чуть-чуть прям поднялись буквально. Ну, блять, вот эта катка 0. Ну ладно, 1 поинт.
Really unfortunate for them, but they're still holding on to 15th place. Looking at the rest of the list of Morte, you know, I know we talked about them yesterday. They were in 12th place at 73 points at the end of the day before that, but they have gone back to 12th place, but this time at 153 points, as they have been really, really kind of gone today and yesterday.
Yeah, bit of an odd spot to be in for them. Hopefully they can be in that 12th position at the end of these 5 games today to make sure they can play that last little match. You never know, that livik could...
Так, сейчас я быстренько еще перемотаю обратно таблицу, кое-что хочу посмотреть. Где эти челики, господи? А, вот они.
But there's no $1,000 per chicken dinner anymore, so even that doesn't matter.
Че, перекур?
It's unfortunate, but you know, again, it's just one phase. There's still time for teams to improve. And I know I keep saying that, but I really want to stress it because there are still 2 weeks left to go here of play. One of the 12 days of matches, I should say, of play before we can even get into our finals. But we have about 2 minutes and 40 seconds now before we head into our next match of the day, which will be over on Erangel. It's our only Erangel of the day. Tough times here for some teams. They have to be getting a little bit scared. As you guys were saying, there is a world where they don't come out first at the end of this, which would be quite surprising, but very impressive if Virtus Pro could pull that off because of the gap they were behind.
Yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine? I mean, I think ultimately, I don't think someone's going to pass Mad Bulls here, given that they are a strong, consistent team. But the fact that Virtus Pro could even try get close to me is wild in itself. So let's see.
Hey, Virtus Pro are really good at taking care of actually teams that have good positions, right? We saw that first game, Mad Bulls being in a really good spot, and that breach was fantastic from Virtus Pro. And if Virtus Pro keep breaching these really, really strong spots, and Mad Bulls are always in those spots, like it could completely mess up their position on top of the leaderboard. So I'm telling you, Virtus Pro, I'm a believer that Virtus Pro can be first place at the end of today. They just, if they can get 1 win, and I think they can make it happen, I think that would be the game that will put them above the rest.
What about Eastern Stars, though? I know I brought them up before. I wanted to just dive into them a little bit because they have actually been very impressive this event. They're looking more like the Eastern Stars of the old that we used to talk about quite a bit, the Warlord himself. I don't know what's been going on, but if you look at their past results in the last few days, they just really disappeared off the face of the planet.
It makes it even rougher that they miss out on this next game coming up as well, right? So they've already played 2 games. They're going to miss out on this one, and it's Erangel, which technically speaking, we've seen Eastern Stars do pretty well on. So the fact that they miss out on the Erangel for today really doesn't help their case for this. I think that overall, some of what we've seen in the past couple of days, like as you see with the points coming in here as well, it's not been tidy. Like they got themselves the 2nd place with the 10 eliminations in round 25, which was about 3 games ago now. So I guess that's the 15-point conversion. But beyond that, it's yeah.
I mean, we brought up a few points when we were talking about Eastern Stars compared to last season, which was they are a team that was very up and down, that roller coaster effect kind of happening. We're seeing it right now with this line graph, that there is that up and down tendency from them, which we wanted to hopefully not see this season, but it's coming back in form, which is not the best thing currently.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this roller coaster for maybe the last day or two, I think it's a bit of an anomaly considering the other days that we've seen from them so far.
Good,
There's been so many third places, so many decent performances that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe that this is just not a downward trend for them here.
What if it's the other way around, Claris? What if the good games we saw them play is actually the anomaly in this scenario?
I like that they've made changes because they noticed that obviously the roller coaster was a thing. I like that they kind of went out of their way to make changes, which shows that it's a team that's willing to try and progress. So I'm gonna say that, you know, the tweaks were the way I described it and not a Maxman curse way. You know what I mean?
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel, Max?
No, yeah, fair point. I mean, I can't. It is true that the curse is there now. So I don't know what to tell you.
Is it though? To be honest, I think a year ago it was here. I think it's been slowly disappearing. Actually, I think if you look at the predictions results, it's probably my curse now.
No, I would say. I mean, the thing is, I keep cursing my predictions, right? They always keep getting second place. Like no, actually not getting it. So. Yeah, I mean, no, I don't curse teams as bad, right? And especially a lot of teams paid me actually a pretty decent amount to not talk about them too much on the desk. So, yeah, it's part of my contract now.
None of what he said is true. We are not paid to talk about certain teams more than others and not curse other teams. We curse every team equally here at the PMPL. So over to our commentators, though, as they're going to kick off our third match of the day.
Match number 3, it started to fly through. It's going well so far. I mean, hopefully we won't be cursing too many teams this time around, Blank. I've got my eye on you. I've got my eye on you.
All I was wondering is, wait, we're getting paid for this? What's going on? Max,
Guys are
let me
getting
know what's happening here. But yeah, we are having our teams hopefully not get cursed too much. And it is an angle. Last time there was an angle around I cursed 3 top teams, like consecutively as well. So it was somewhat impressive. We did call it the great cursing, and honestly, I hope that I don't turn into another Max. But he has kind of shedded some of his more mystical ways recently, which is nice to see. It's nice to see indeed. But it's also nice to see
Magic Man now.
Yeah, much cooler Magic Man, 100%. It's nice to see also this kind of playing path. Everyone's happy with this one. No one's angry about it whatsoever. Some teams will be able to get out to play nice and early. For a team like Game Lord, they'll be out to playing quite late up towards Yasnaya. But Virtus Pro as well, still in this one. And Mad Balls looking to make up some of those points just a little bit.
Yeah, with that game deficit, obviously that gap shrinking down to 25. Ideal, sure, but you do want to be stretching that out. See what VP can do as well, right? Because if they just don't allow that gap to shrink, they can keep on trucking, maybe even close it down, depending on how the Mad Balls do. But the Mad Balls are out very, very early on the drop path over towards what looks to be a quarry split near Primorsk.
3 matches left today, so not long to actually pick up the speed, but time enough. And also because they are in that top 12, they'll be able to get those bonus points coming in through from that livik. Old Boy's made his way into the highest damage leaders alongside Effect and Zerek, who have been doing huge amounts of work there for the Mad Bulls themselves. And Tudica just about on that longest elimination of 319, just behind Vito. Unfortunately for Codex and Vito themselves, not really a lot happening with that team. Just slightly dead in the water, and that is incredible to see. Money Ken slowly but surely been taken ahead of now with Old Boy 41, just a little bit behind Mad Bulls. He has really been doing work. You know what the best thing about Old Boy is, John?
What's the best
He
thing about
has
Old Boy?
never let up. From year to year to year, he's still the same absolutely blaster that we saw back in Berlin at PMCO. It is incredible to see such consistency from a singular player throughout the years.
I mean, that's got to be coming up on 3.5 years, almost 4 years, probably next summer, I believe. He'll be at the top of the game, which is really quite incredible, all things considered. Now, see what they can do from Rosok, where they have decided to drop for Virtus Pro. Na'Vi back over in North George. Team Doom taking South George this time around. Codex split around the south coast. Potentially getting a little bit of a scrape with 4 Romanian men, but Farm seems to have been isolated and contained for 4 Romanian men. TJP splitting a little bit further north on this position. And Muerte, oh, beg your pardon, over on the eastern side near Milta. Unicorns and Lover on the north side of the military island in the meantime.
Yeah, I think these guys kind of dropped very, very far out of the way. Muerte obviously dropping on top of them a few times, take the vehicles. With the playing path, though, slightly less likely they'll be doing that because they can get over towards mill to power a bit more comfortably and take much more space over there. With Eastern Stars not being in the game, this actually works out quite well for them. But still, Unicorns love being very careful with it. They don't want a repeat of last time over on our angle. Again, a lot of these teams do make quick adjustments to anything that happens, and I wouldn't really consider that a mistake from Unicorns of Love on that last angle. It's just one of the things that's a little bit unexpected and not exactly a coin flip, but if you're caught off guard and it's Muerte who's putting the onus on you to grab those vehicles as fast as possible before they can run you down, it does become a little bit difficult because you are reacting, whereas Muerte a lot of times is quite proactive.
Че, все живы, здоровы, да, вроде как да. Самое главное, Нави.
It's all about it, all about it. Certainly if you want to be getting up into the top 12, where currently Muerte are in 12th place.
Я мобил на зарядку поставлю.
Yeah, I mean,
They
still
are just in there.
Still, Muerte is kind of the lot of mix-ups, right? You never really know what they're going to do next. I think for TJB, on the other hand, you know, quite rather random, honestly. Rather random is that team. I wouldn't say in the best of ways. They do really need to show us a little bit more. Still, there's not many teams. I think there's only 2 teams at the moment. If I quickly check my statistics, I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Ooh, what are you checking it for? I want to know. I'm curious now.
I'll be back. Just give me 2 seconds.
Well, okay.
It's coming.
There they are.
There we go.
On their way.
I'm there now, right. There's only really 2 teams that I would class as like doing quite poorly during this tournament, and I think even one of them you could say that it's a team that's coming back up on the rise, and that's Team Doom. X Team, on the other hand, had a slight rise, but they really haven't done too much of it. 64 points.
Больше ногти еще не перестал красить. Чё? По-русски можно?
Each individual placing up until the top 2 in Mad Bulls and Virtus Pro 263, 238. From 3rd to 2nd to 1st, it's like a 30-point jump up each time, which I find very interesting. We do have really close boundaries at the top. So we have collectively 3 very, very strong teams who we know are good in our matches. And then from there down, there's only one team in my eyes, who is X Team, who kind of really do have to make some big improvements between now and Phase 2.
Я нихуя не понял, я реально не понял. Ну вот, типа, сам прочитай свое предложение. Ты больше ногти еще не... Ты, типа, перестал ли я красить ногти? Нет, не перестал. А что? Да, пизда.
Absolutely blast out for the rest of the game today, and Mad Bulls get no points. Virtus Pro take that first.
Чё выпендришь? Ты чё выпендришься, а? Ну чё ты выпендришься?
Very impactful. But then there's only a 1-point drop if Mad Bulls go down to 2nd place, right? They only lose that 1 point. They get 19 points instead of 20 for coming 2nd in this phase. Sure, it reduces the amount that they've added to their overall totals, but the impact of positional change at this stage is going to be quite limited, because it is at this point where teams will now really only shift maybe.
Бля, мне вот этот чел никогда не перестанет напоминать матч-шоу. Я не знаю почему. Пробуй козявку, какая на вкус. Давай ты сначала.
The overall impact of that for me at the moment is going to be lowered somewhat. I'm going to be interested to see how these teams carry that momentum forward into the next phase of gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely, because you could have a chance where even if Virtus Pro, you know, they get that 20 points, fantastic news. You could have a complete scenario where in phase 2, Virtus Pro come out in 20th place.
Не сладкое у меня.
For example,
у меня сладкое.
1 point, right? Yeah, 1 point in that 20th place, and now they're down to 21. And Mad Bulls, yeah, they took 19, but they're 2nd place again in that phase 2. They're up to 38 points now over the 21 that currently Virtus Pro would have held.
Не предлагали.
It is that case that phase 2 is where things will get a little bit more spicy in terms of those finals points. And I think with the volatility
Тогда были жесткие разногласия.
from day to day, that's where you're going to see most excitement, because you might have a team that does really well in phase 1.
Да, только навесился, да, все правильно, Рест.
coming into the finals, but that next phase, not able to get many at all. And that is where you'll see teams start to get those chunk points, getting up towards the top, and it's really that overall where it's going to start getting even more spicy.
Ну, всякие были разногласия.
I think we comprehensively covered that.
И по моей, и не по моей вине.
Spotting over towards Virtus Pro.
Как говорится, опыт получен.
Of the hour, but Yankee backed off the rooftop by Hamodi with the spray on the scar. Not really getting too much more than that though. Positional awareness for VP. Death Machine looking like maybe they're not.
Кстати, у Олдбоя супер неожиданная позиция. Там краш, если будет. Ну, только сейчас рано, конечно, занимать эту позицию, но...
Yeah, there's still a lot of areas around the map right now that are open to being played. And I think a lot of them will require different positionings. And quite vastly different positionings.
На ВП будут сидеть, Нави тоже будут сидеть. Мэды что сейчас будут делать? Скорее всего, на картошку перекатят. Что думаешь, что будет, если ВП будут основу играть? Я не знаю. Вообще понятия. Возможно, будет лучше, а может быть и нет. Вот и, блядь, весь ответ. Какими мэдами? Мы не про мэдами. Не про мэдов говорим. Мы же про Нави. Ну тут мэды. Мэдам я вообще никакого отношения не имею. Онлайн маленький, а сколько сейчас? 82. Ну такое, да. Душновато, если честно. Мало актива, вообще мало чего. Как говорится, война войной, а бизнес по расписанию, поэтому, Максим, тут ничего не сказать. А бизнес есть бизнес. Стримить нужно чаще было. Ой, простите, пожалуйста, блядь. Стримить нужно чаще было. Понятно.
No matter where they go, they'll be running into separate players. I don't think short of heading down towards that southeast side to try and make a long rotate through Mansion, perhaps over Shelter on that open.
Извини, что не стримил каждый день.
Towards fields, you know, anything they do at the moment is difficult. So the only option is to try and razz it through closer towards the middle of this circle.
Да при чем тут это вообще? Вон, Чикен каждый день стримит, что? Башар онлайн? Даже когда он стримил каждый день. Что, все, кто там киберспортсмены на Трово уходили, каждый день стримили, что, большой онлайн? Много, я смотрю, на стримах, кто поднялся. В неделю 1070? Нет. Нет. Африку буду ли стримить? Ну да, буду по возможности рестримить Африку тоже.
This is something we're just talking about, and I think that regroup quite important for them. They have started to head on over. Again, it's who can pick up some of the best positions. Flyke on the back there in the buggy does break the vehicle there to give him a little bit more access of taking the shots. And on the back of the buggy, you do get a little bit of high ground play around with. Dondo's going to be super careful. Getting knocked now would be very bad for them. Circle shifts all the way down towards that southwest side, and Mad Bulls are absolutely laughing about this one.
Мейл, скажи это 3000 человекам, блять. Там реально там человеки, блять. Которые... Ну, ладно. Предикты, да? У нас хардшифт на починке, кстати. Кстати, хардшифт на починке. Сейчас все будут взрываться в центр. Ошибаться буду.
Those headshot hills to their northwest side as well will be absolutely deadly for the teams trying to move across them. That's Na'Vi, that's Big, potentially even Death Machine if they're forced out that way.
Я когда и стримил там чуть ли не каждый день, онлайн особо не больше был, я вам так скажу. Так что не от этого зависит. Просто большинству людей не нравится меня смотреть. Мне как бы поебать, но в очередной просто раз убеждаюсь в том, что короче, ладно, пизду. Я просто в голове у себя прокрутил много всяких прикольных штук.
It'll be good news all round for them, but Big certainly not someone you want to mess with. They proved that in the last Sandhawk.
Некоторые просто, ну не некоторые, большинству нравятся наигранные всякие эмоции, нравится просто сидеть пиздеть без остановки, слушать этот пиздеж непонятный. Ну я сейчас не конкретно про кого-то говорю, я так типа обобщаю. Вот. И просто нравится инфошум, который постоянно вокруг находится. Типа люди просто живут в говне, нравится говно вот это все кипящее, и они от этого кайфуют. Сори, я немножечко других взглядов.
I think for Big and Na'Vi dropping on the north, that's where they get the most advantage out of that position, just because there's no one really there holding them. And with it going hard down towards the southwest, there's really no reason for Game Lord to hold out any teams on the north side anymore. So they just have to find their way into the circle. Initially, Akashi's going to scout.
Shots close up and personal to Muerte, 1-for-1. Auto shotty for Striker, pushes up to the headland. Two players up there for Codex.
Да при чем тут Чикен, блядь, я... При чем тут нахуй Чикен? Чикен вообще мой кореш, типа, я к нему никаких... Он делает свой контент, вообще, дай бог ему здоровья. Типа, кому нравится, те смотрят. Я сейчас не про Чикен, я вообще ни про кого конкретного не сказал. Никитос, здорово. Блядь, да не. Да и при чем тут рыба? Нет, да и даже и не рыба. Я тебе больше скажу. Не Чикен подходит под описание, а 90, наверное, 90%. Ну не, ладно, если я сейчас буду говорить, потом еще вырезать будут говорить, что так вот хуесосил. Пизду нахуй! Все, давайте смотреть папку. Там опять с кем-то разбираться, что-то выяснять. Не, нахуй, пизду. Все. Не нравится, не смотрите. Идите нахуй отсюда, если что-то не нравится. Вот. Все, кому нравится, оставайтесь сидеть со мной. Вон, пейте лайман. Я без негатива, если что.
Be nice to see the west just so you can see how open a lot of this is, and Na'Vi should be able to have a lot of good vision. That's Jason going for the Mad Bulls pick. The other two over towards Na'Vi, got a lot of confidence in them.
They'll have to win out that Sunken City engagement. Muerte locked in it with ARB. Two of them are down. Modi close, they did manage to get that res early.
Я не знаю, кстати, почему Манекен еще здесь играет, если его на всевозможных турнирах перебанили. Опять хардшифт, да, только наверх уже. Кстати, ВП правильно сделали, что не стали упарываться в центр. Потому что они видели, что там миллиард ротаций перед ними. Нави где? Нави сверху где-то слева должны быть.
Is horrific for you. Unfortunately for them, Ruthless Esports, Ulysses already drops up into position. They might be facing another fight here. I think for them, you know, that north push would be the most intelligent one. But Ruthless Esports, yes, they're not in the circle, but they take great advantage of this. Up towards the shack, gives cover, gives high ground. They can peek over the lip, and it's absolutely done in at least Omar here. And now Ruthless Esports can try and clear some of this space on the southeast.
Сколько еще каток? Ну это третья. Еще 3 будет, получается. Ливик, по идее, должен быть. Ну, я же говорю, Нави слева сверху, стороны печени. Спасибо большое за 69 тысяч.
Пошел ты нахуй. Тебя очень интересно смотреть.
Пошел ты нахуй.
Аналитика и разбор сразу. Очень интересно, так что пошли все нахуй.
Ауф, блин.
Чат, привет всем.
Спасибо. А уже другое дело. Livik будет последняя, третья. Livik это шестой, да, шестой матч. Это правильно. Так, Нави в Венеции. Кстати, у них сейчас зона будет недалеко, если они вообще в зоне не будут. Сейчас она, ну, она в кемпы уже вряд ли будет уходить куда-то, она, скорее всего, в поле будет. Ну да. Им надо, вот у них, кстати, заебись. Закрывать сейчас всю Венецию надо, потом от этой горки можно сыграть будет. Главное, чтобы ВП сейчас не расплетовались по всей горе, это будет хуёво тогда для Нави. Ну, у ВПшек там он с юниками заруба. Блять, Хэппи, ты чё? Просто на жопе выполз в опен. Ну, надо продавливать, чё вы? Юники, алло. Либо туда, либо в лобби. Тут у вас вариантов немного. Ну, ВПшки, кстати, уже отжали фулл гору. Наверное, будет сложно.
Na'Vi once again forcing big into rotations they do not want here. Takes down a couple of their players, and this is
что, Мэд здесь? Куда они сыграют, тоже интересно.
Yeah, big were able to get in the circle, and it was an interesting rotation, but it's not quite enough. Matic goes down, but the shots from behind towards Icy will be laid low there. That's from Monkey from Mad Bulls. That's a very, very long shot coming through from him. But again, it's that open terrain. If you go up onto any of these little ridge sides that take you slightly higher, you know, you are going to be torn to shreds by other teams looking your way.
Урона много, но нет.
Pretty brutal, certainly. Over in these headshot hills, nade over the top towards Mihi. Swave does heal through it. We'll be able to look to stick this res. Unicorns are maybe trying to push on in. Codex eliminated in the meantime. Na'Vi did get their res on through as well, so they are back up to 4. Big finally taken down as they engage the Unicorns of Love, and that is the power that Na'Vi were exerting. As you say,
куда? А куда ехать-то? Оппозицию-то не начекали дальше, блять. Я понимаю, что вы файтились, но, блядь, надо же хотя бы план какой-то иметь, что куда потом заезжать. Или просто типа, а, похуй. Куда-нибудь да заедем. Не, пел я не смотрю. Нави под ВП все-таки подъехали, и, судя по всему, файт пока идет в пользу Нави. Кстати, юники тоже выжили. Ой, сейчас как может получиться, смотрите, юники сейчас просто в спину ВПшкам заедут, потому что ВПшки слишком обнаглели. Они решили и там, и тут пострелять. В итоге юников не закрыли до конца, и сейчас будут от этого страдать. Вон минус Олбобус уже. И мир остается там, походу, в соло, да? Да. А нет, Янки вон там еще с тегами дерется. Янки сейчас все уже. Ой, ВП, как бы сейчас, прикиньте, да? Ой, блядь, сука. Короче. Да куда? ВП бы сейчас стояли на этой горе. Ну, при том, при всем, что юников у них не было, они бы закрыли их до конца. Они бы сейчас стояли вчетвером на этой горе. Нави бы, возможно, здесь играли. Нави бы еще бы не пошли так рано пушить, если бы ВП не дали здесь возможность. Там, по-моему, ВП первые нокнулись. И ВП бы с Нави сейчас спокойно делили бы эту гору, сначала оформили бы все поле, а потом бы между собой разбирались. Ну, это в идеале.
Oh, up for the trade, and it's not going to go the way of Take Aim Gaming. Matic, 2 on the ball there. Didn't manage to get the knock out in the field, was actually healed up behind, but there's the knock coming through, and Na'Vi take control now. Mad Bulls on 3, trying to swing out wide, but it is spotted. Kitsune suppressing, 2 knocks over to the Mad Bulls. Last player standing is Effect. Death Machine and Team Doom taking the fight. Team Doom come out on top with 3. 7.
Да ладно, неужели Нави выиграет?
Sorry, only the 5 at the moment.
6 so far. They've been able to pick up, but again, it's been all about control this match. Pushing
Ну тогда, да, ВПшкам надо было юнит с юниками что-то делать. Вот они сейчас проебали игру только потому, что... Сори, у меня что-то интернет выебывается. ВПшки проиграли игру только потому, что не закрыли юников. Вот единственное, блядь, что они сделали не так, это просто не закрыли юников. Собственно. Проиграли игру. Ладно, там еще надо было Нави бы отдефать. Но было бы проще гораздо. Потому что там, где стоит Тигзи, там высота, по-моему, и там видно вообще все. Другую часть горы видно. А как Кицун его не видит? Или он не смотрит вообще? А, он увидел все. Ну попади, ну.
Their scopes trained properly. 2 teams remaining. Team Doom positions known. Nades over the top. Na'Vi have a lot of loot as well. Smokes to play around with. Molotovs as well. 2 nades for Matic.
Я не понимаю, меня дудосит кто-то, что ли, или что?
So many places Team Doom can be here. The nades are just dropping a little bit short. Send them slightly further.
That one's good.
There's a big one from Matic.
Perks last standing. Tixie moving forwards, but it's not even going to matter. Na'Vi dominate from the ridgeline. They play big like a fiddle.
Ура, ебать, наконец-то. Нави выиграли. Красава чел, который поставил, сколько там, 60 рублей? Я тоже думал, ВП заберут. Но ВП что-то с юниками непонятку какую-то сделали. Отпустили их, просто убежали на другой край, блядь. Не понял вообще. Не пон. Привет, Юрик. Как твои дела?
Same again for VP and same again for Mad Bulls. Meku was really on the swivel. I know we saw a lot of fighting between them and VP, but Meku was consistently outside the circle, taking shots towards Mad Bulls in there.
Я думаю, можно расчислять.
Them down, not letting them get close. I was very, very impressed. Again, though, Mad Bulls get a fair few points that game. I believe it was a total of 15, and that's over Virtus Pro of 8. So they have made that lead just a little.
Поздно включились, да не, а когда это не сейчас?
To the Mad Bulls right now, it's gonna be very difficult for any other team to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a 2-horse race now for that top spot, right? It's going to be very, very difficult for Eastern Stars, who are sat in, I think, 3rd after that game, and Pioneer and Death Machine. Those guys.
Опа! Спасибо еще за 69, бро.
Просто не шарить ВП отдались, чтобы на вид топ-1 взяли.
Ну, походу, да.
ВС четко.
Походу так и было. Спасибо.
You know, I'm finding this unfair, guys. I'm finding that you guys are just copying each other's picks.
Just one of us is copying the other's picks, right, Max? Let's start.
Yeah, I mean, just Control C, Control V. You know, it's pretty quick.
Take Kalaris' pick.
Они не хотят вылезать.
It was, as you explained earlier, it was a similar situation to that game where, when Mad Bulls won, right? It was the exact same position, just like kind of a different entry point, etc. And Na'Vi, the only way they actually come out on top of this was if they wanted a third-party fight. You had the fight versus Game Lord and Virtus Pro North on that big ridge line, or you had the fight versus, it was Unicorns of Love and another squad down on the southwestern side. So they committed the fight versus Virtus Pro, clear Virtus Pro, get the 4 eliminations, and then have the high ground position to peek and use that ridge to get information. It was clean from Na'Vi, and Na'Vi starting to, as you said, start building a little bit of momentum here. It's good to see.
I mean, when it comes to predictions, I'm playing the very hard shift circle meta, let's put it that way, with mine as a whole. And for Na'Vi here, looking at how things played out, honestly, if this hard shift south, I don't think they get this win. If this hard shift south, I think Jason gets the win off the back of this with Mad Bulls, who were still able to prevail long into this game without any
Так и живем.
decent shifts onto them whatsoever. So yes, I might be ahead, but that's by the point. We have still same thing here where Na'Vi played this game out excellently despite the circle favoring them slightly. They chased up to the north. We were musing Max over to whether or not they should be moving, or they should be third-partying the fight south of them or moving north. I thought maybe going north would have been the better play early, but they still went up there anyway.
Для крысы или
The
для
fight
меня?
against VP, with them being third-partied by Tag, was extremely important. If that third party doesn't happen, then maybe VP's not as stretched thin against Na'Vi there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they had to go for that fight anyways versus VP. Otherwise, if they take the
Да,
fight
кот в
versus
ахуе
Unicorns of
просто
Love, the
лежит.
fight down south, then they're not going to be in circle whatsoever. So here, that's 23 points going away of Na'Vi, and they needed a little bit of an extra bump, right, if they wanted to play that final livik at the end of today. So that's the right amount of bump you wanted, but hey, Team Doom, a team that has been, I would say, relatively solid.
Кстати, не так много киллов у Нави, я думаю, больше, всего 8. Но в целом пойдет. Как говорится, победа не пахнет.
Barely get into that livik match, but it's still Doom needs a lot. But at least you know what? As we already said many times, you're still going to have that reset at the end of this phase. So there's still a chance we'll see Team Doom perform in the future.
Ну прыгай.
Do we have Jason back or do we continue?
I think we continue.
Okay.
У Нави одна игра всего осталась, пон.
All right. Well, for X team, yeah, not too many points coming in. Likewise, off of the back of all of this, I did expect Game Lord to maybe get a few more points, considering where they were and the lay of the land that did happen for them. They were coming in from the north side of that. They were in the west compounds from Rozok. So technically speaking, that's a great staging point to be able to enter some of these final circles. But again, a bit of a crunch down. It feels like Game Lord's a little slower in the game compared to previous seasons, Max. I mean, is that a fair assessment, or?
Yeah, I mean, they have stretched their playstyle a little bit more. In the previous season, they were very edge focused, and now they do a little bit of both.
Я вам оставлю крыс.
Like to play central. I think it's a little bit of indecision. Like sometimes just a little bit slow to come to a conclusion and act upon that decision. So in this game in particular, right, they had some decisions that were a little bit slow. They lose 2 players outside in the blue, unfortunately. Then they're down to Akashi and Victor. It is a bit slower from what we've seen before, which is a bit odd. And Big 2, talking about slow, I feel like Big was also a little bit slow on their rotation. They were right up north of where this circle was about to end, and Na'Vi just completely blew their position out of the water, taking a position on the east of Sunken City. So I think some teams could try and speed up the process. And well, if you don't, teams like Na'Vi will be able to play spoilers.
Yeah, as an eagle-eyed viewer might be aware, as watching the highlights here, there is just not much hard cover to work with in these final circles whatsoever. If you don't have a dip, if you don't have a good ridge line to work with in this area, I'm sorry, but you're prone and you're hoping no one sees you, and that is rough. But Mad Bulls was a case of this, right, Max? I mean, if you look at their approach towards it, again, I think that they did really well in surviving as long as they did, as we compare them to Na'Vi right now. But it was too hard a transition to make for them constantly in these final games and final moments.
It truly was a test of width, I would say, for Mad Bulls. They just got everything thrown their way, and they were able to survive quite a bit. I think that Mad Bulls have shown that they can deal with these situations pretty well, but I mean, every team has a limit, right? And I think that Mad Bulls eventually was going to hit that limit, so it was going to be a bit tough. But overall, looking at the stats here, you can see that that's some good damage conversion from Na'Vi with those 8 eliminations. And the thing especially here, Kalaris, is that Mad Bulls got 7 eliminations here, total with a placement points of 15 points.
Yep.
That's way more than what Virtus Pro got. So I was hoping we could see Virtus Pro maybe snatch away that first place, but with this game done, and because Mad Bulls still have to play every single game today, and VP have only got 1 remaining, I believe.
Yep.
I mean, that should be Mad Bulls remaining in first, and no one should be able to budge them from that spot.
No, definitely. I think it's a great salvage game by Mad Bulls, considering, again, the way the hard shifts go against them. And it shows, again, their class when you see how they're able to just even say, okay, you know, we are caught in this no man's land. Let's just try and blast everything here and get as many eliminations on the board as possible. Getting 7 along with that, I think that's a success considering the position that they were in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you can just get yourself eliminations when you know you're not going to win a game, I think that's the good path for some of the teams. Like, we know we're not going for that chicken dinner. Let's just get as much of what we can do with this position we currently have. So let's eliminate all the teams down south. And then we're just going to hit our limit naturally and just can't go any further. But at least we did as much as we can do, even with a bad circle. And I think that's a good mark of a team that is trying to retain consistency. And that's what Mad Bulls, to some extent, have been able to showcase so far. But now we got our next matches that are going to be coming up, and I would say it's more fight now for top 12 to see who can make it in that livik match and who can potentially get a few extra points here and there in that final game of the day.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see the barrier with only 2 games remaining to try and get onto that livik. What is the entry point here for top 12? Because right now, I think actually there is quite a few teams that are in that pack max to try and lash out at the top 12.
Yeah, and I don't know if we can look at the overall rankings before we throw it to the casters. We've got 2 minutes. I'm not sure if we...
Fair.
That would be cool, because the limit must be pretty close. I mean, Big was slowly going up and down. Navi also, we'll see. Oh, there we go. We can take a look. Thank you very much. But yeah, Mad Bulls, still, as you said, like, no contest, should remain in first place without too much of an issue. But top 12 is what I'm really going to be putting my focus on right now as you go potentially lower on the rankings. But yeah, we got some good step-ups. No Shockwave. Shockwave in 6th position actually is really, really huge for the team, then how almost invisible they were in the first 3 days. So Shockwave did a really good comeback on these last 3 days.
Yeah, definitely so. Let's take a look at that barrier then, as we have just 4 points between Nexus Gaming and Dimwerte. Dimwerte technically because of their wins. There's been kind of the, again, I said it last time, the Codex effect from them, where they get that back-to-back, but what have they done since? They need to be able to bump up a little bit. But Take Aim Gaming, aEVb champions, likewise. I think 13th, 14th, and 15th, those are the teams we should be looking at to try and get into the top 12, because maybe for Ruthless, it's just a little bit too out of reach right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you would have to convert some actual wins if you want to see them making in top 12. So I think Ruthless is potentially out of the question. And then TJB, I still want to see TJB step up. Not this first phase, unfortunately, but I haven't seen significant improvements. We'll have to see if they could try and get himself a win here. But with that said, we're ready to jump into our next game. So we're gonna throw it right over to John Allen and Blank.
Hey, thank you very much. We are going to be getting into this next map. Hopefully, we're all ready, raring and rocking, ready to go. I've completely forgotten which number. These games just go by so fast, Blank. It's difficult. It's difficult to remember which match we're in. I think it's
number 4.
4th one. I think it's the 4th one.
You are correct. This is match number 4. Yeah,
there we go.
Match number 4.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Miramar on the cards. Okay, I'm set. I'm ready.
Yes, we're ready to go. We're going through into Miramar. Match 4. We end on our angle. This is how things usually happen. Don't you worry, John, I'm here for you. But we're not ending on our angle today. We do have livik still coming up, which will be coming through very, very shortly. But we still have to watch all these teams play out these final few matches over on our typical maps of Sanhok, Arangel, as well as Miramar. I think the max is right at this point in time. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to catch up to Mad Bulls. I don't think they're moving away from that top spot of first place. There might be a little shake-up if, you know, Virtus.pro are able to get at least one more insane game. It has to be an insane game that they grab. And Mad Bulls will have to continue doing badly in their next 2 matches, which is kind of unlikely considering Mad Bulls. But if that happens, they could potentially ladder up to first place on that livik match. But that just requires so many different factors to take place and happen in the meantime. So I think we can safely say that Mad Bulls are pretty secure in their first place position. For the bonus points from livik, I'm looking at other teams laddering over one another down the tables, where those rankings are very, very small and disparate, and more disparate, to be honest with you. But 12th place, that's what we're looking at. Who's going to be able to jump up? Na'Vi not far behind Dimwerte at the moment. With that chicken dinner, should see them nicely over towards that 12th place.
Yeah, they jumped up to 10th at the end of that game as well, which is a real nice comfort for them. But they only have the 1 game left to play. So if they want to solidify it, they're probably looking at getting maybe 10 points or so on board for this game to have that shot to be in the livik game that is still yet to come. Nexus as well, sat in 12th place currently. They have a game in hand, right? This is
Зона верхняя будет, ничего себе, вот это да. Когда такого не было, вот опять. Не, на самом деле я соскучился по верхним зонам. Ох, манекены Хавлик ищет на улицу. Ой. Бля, может так оставить, короче. Просто тупо пусть вебка на открытых будет. Я буду сидеть комментировать.
But yeah, I think for Nexus it's happy days because a lot of these teams will finish their matches right now. And then you can see where they ended up, and now you have a visible target to play around with. So for Nexus, there is at least some certainty when they're playing that last game where they need to get to. And then it's less of a case of, right, we need to go to chicken dinner, get as many points as possible. It'd be a case of, we just need 5th place.
А кто у нас пропускает сейчас? ВПшки пропускают, да? Ну, я имею в виду из наших.
Even if it were at the back of the queue coming into the zone and we're not getting center, it doesn't matter.
No, it certainly doesn't. ARB, an X team.
ВП и ДМР, понял, спасибо.
Puerto Paraíso. X team having a real rough time of it this tournament. You've got to think, you know, the value of trying to play for the win for X team is probably severely diminished right now because they are almost 40 points behind 19th place. If they just try and hold out and play for 20-point games in these next 2 games, sure, maybe they get it. But then they only gain 1 point overall into the finals. The value, I think, of trying things out, of getting some essentially scrim practice in these games is going to have a much higher value in the long run for the next weeks of gameplay. So we'll see what they're going to look for in these next 2 games.
Yeah, they just need to practice. Fights versus Arab champions, I think a team that's not similar in skill, but not exactly mad balls to drop on top of. This is a good team that they can keep harassing. Although they are dropping on the same position multiple times. It's right down in Puerto Paraíso. So I don't know if X team are just following these guys around because it was over towards, I think it was up towards Power Grid last time we saw these 2 teams duke it out. So interesting plays coming from X team. And like you say, it's just that scrum practice. That 1 point, it's not going to matter too much to them right now. It just has to be a full reset coming into the finals itself. And they have to make it to the finals as well, John, which is the scary thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's also kind of the big deal situation on those.
Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой.
Nightmare. He's been spotted.
Блин, была болтовка.
Only the one found. Omar, a Nightmare shimmies behind some cover.
And so, talking about going for the win, yeah, it might not be the best in terms of that singular point, but getting your overall rankings bumped up so you're in that top 16 when we come down to it at the very final ending of our league stage. You want to be able to have just enough points so you can be in that top 16. But I still think that for X team, 20 points per game, fantastic. That will see you very, very nicely into.
Это, походу, единственное, да, сейчас что будет вообще происходить в ближайшее время на карте? Ну, давайте смотреть.
Only 100 points behind some of the top teams in the lobby with 200 right at the top of standings, like 4th place. So you can easily make up that number in the next 2 phases, considering how well other teams actually end up doing.
Спасибо большое за 169, бро, спасибо.
Яд, пули они ползают, осуждаю, шутка.
Quite going down.
Спасибо, бро.
Staying alive for now. Certainly a little bit more afraid than previously, but both of these teams just sticking it out, not really going super hard. X team have got that perimeter established, but I think the high ground position for ARB might come in to be the most important thing in this fight.
Still just waiting for one of these teams to potentially go for the engage. I think both these teams play very warily. The issue is that by the time they start fighting, I think one thing that ARB currently are doing a lot better than X team is scouting singular players and then taking them out.
Ну, RB, походу, отойти хотят или что? Непонятно пока.
To that engage from Arab champions, they already have all the information they need. Zombies moving, clearly visible. They know the position he's moved to. And the rest of the team's just not quite backing him up here.
Да можно, да.
Still no knocks going either way. They're just all biding their time. Taking a look around the map, there's really no other hot drops going on. TJB allowed to maintain some semblance of safety out to the east of Hacienda del Patron, although Game Lord are moving along that road, potentially to come into conflict. Eastern Stars from the south might be spotting out for Romanian men not too long from now. So a little bit of kerfuffle maybe in the center of this next circle.
Yeah, TJB move up from water treatment. They pass over that dangerous ground and decide that, you know, it's not as worth it as they originally thought it was going to be. Game Lord, again, central towards their position. They can take another high ground spot.
Звук комментаторов меньше, да можно. А чё, разве громко? Мне кажется, нет. По-моему, норм.
To take it home at the moment, John, which is what is worrying to me. For a team that was so well regarded for a long time, it's not been able to finish these matches out despite having some decent moves in the beginning. It just feels quite flustered towards the end, right? I don't know what's happening in the team internally, but there's certainly something there which feels just a little bit off.
High ground position. All the Eastern Stars. A little bit of a train to move forwards. They've yet to regroup. A lot of players further south than their outpost on the north side. Establishing a little bit of cover, to be fair, on their rotation towards the back. Finally, something happens in this engagement. Out in the blue, ARB lose a player. Just the one. Wadea is down as X-Team were allowed to have the whole low ground. And Wadea's pretty much given up.
А как вообще иксы прошли на ПМПЛ? Можно вопрос? Бля, ну остается надеяться, что это верхняя зона будет до конца. ХЗ. Посмотрим по второму проку.
On Miramar. I'd be curious to see where the next circle goes. I mean, I'd love to head up further towards northeast. I want to see a finish up there.
Ну да, отлично. Походу, это, кстати, гора будет Нави. Они нормально заехали. Прочитали. А, они еще из прошлого ПМПЛ. Понял, принял. Ну, мне кажется, это не совсем ПМПЛ команда.
Go ahead, but you are risking giving sightlines, so you just have to be very silent for a lot of the game. Unicorns are love obviously being first, they'll move up, so we won't hear too much from them. TJB similarly moving from a high point on the map further up towards Torre.
Там медов закрывали.
I don't really think they have to leave this spot just yet. I think they can just reposition the vehicles, potentially play around this position.
And it cruised the Valle just out to the west. A little group of buildings there.
Как Кодекс и другие, но Кодекс хотя бы что-то показывают.
Love will try and hold their bastion.
Хотя бы что-то
A little
показывают.
bit further northwest. Looking like they probably have some high ground there. TJB did spot Rolkis on this rotation, and Unicorns Love trying to rotate through the center of this next circle do lose one of their players. But they'll stay up with 3, and that's a fighting chance.
Да тут все, ну, типа, все наши команды купили инвайт. Так-то.
Skills out in the blue a little bit further west might want to regroup before they take an engagement or just fully disengage from this one. You wouldn't blame them either.
Держит ли Мэда планку до конца? Хотелось бы верить. Но с такой игрой в целом, да.
I think the way I see it is a lot of these circles, a lot of the changes from some of these teams coming through, very unexpected and difficult to deal with. And I think Shockwave absolutely finds success of finding momentum towards the end of the game, having a lot of players up.
Здорово.
Harley goes down to happy there. There are still shots coming his way though.
Keme has the sight line, so does Athis, but somehow gets a little bit of cover from it. Nasa, the Death Machine, stays alive as well. They'll be looking to pop those heals, but do Eastern Stars want revenge, or do they just want position in this coming circle? They are in this next circle towards the south side. Look at Athis' reposition there. Ultra very close to it. Forces Ultra down the hill into the compound with the rest of the players. So now they have a full off angle. The full breadth of angles to play with, but if Athis gets knocked, if he gets spotted, that could be really difficult to get him back up for the Eastern Stars.
It's probably one of Athis' signature moves, right? It's these wild flanks that he makes happen. The fact that he's bold enough to go for this whilst exposing his back to the broadside, I think the only way that you can get away with doing something so bold as this is if you know that a lot of that side of the map is clear to yourself. So currently, Eastern Stars have scouted around both sides. This is towards Death Machine on the south side of the map. I think that you can comfortably take that position that Athis took because there's quite a few rolling hills before you actually will spot him. And he should hear teams get that position. But with the fact that this fight is not finishing fast enough, the returns of having Athis in this position are becoming much more diminished.
They have found that cover.
Потому что Six хороший представитель, не знаю, чего его все скипают. Его в тройку оттягиваешь и нормально. Просто кто-то выебывается, что сетка неудобная. По мне так вообще очень удобная. Ох, какая зона хорошая, ля! Бля, я хлопнул, аж крысы испугались.
We like this. This is exciting. This is good stuff. Na'Vi, though, extremely happy with this position. However, it is one of the few positions that is really available to play, right?
Дефолт Рикс лучше нет, но хуй знает. На вкус и цвет.
A lot of teams like circling around Na'Vi, asking for just some crumb of land to play in. And everyone on the south side is there's not enough space.
Камеру вернуть, да ща верну. Да что-то лень.
Certainly think so, but TJB seem to be the first to feel the brunt of it. They are right in that mix near that airdrop. Seeing Skur and GK first, trying to keep one another alive. As Game Lord look down on them. Another of the few playable positions for Game Lord as they spot out Na'Vi as well. It's a good ridgeline for Game Lord, but it is very, very condensed. They don't really have a lot of scouting ability. The question is, do they even need that right now? Is it just a case of lockdown, control this site, control the area, and stop TJB pushing in, stop Pioneer as well?
You are slightly in vision of the Na'Vi players, but I'm pretty sure that they're so comfortable that it's such a long distance for Na'Vi to take shots at. And they have the cover behind them. It should be fine. I don't think Na'Vi is going to move anytime soon either. But yeah, it's just a case of locking down this south side. The main issue with the circle is there's nowhere really to inject on that direct north edge. Four many men have been able to make into it, but
Прямо катят под Нави. Ну, они, походу, в кемп сядут. Мне не эксперты Нави хороший сплит, да. Пока еще могут себе позволить. Ух-ух-ух. Чего там так залетело?
Exactly when that does start to pop off, but I assume it's going to be very
Empty?
quickly.
Perks, sliver of HP for Team Doom. Phantom drawing some of that attention, but doesn't matter. Perks does get shut down out in the open. Red dot for Crypto actually lands the shot over onto Perks, takes that flush.
Но, не знаю, насчет Матика не уверен. Возможно, ему... Он просто заставил был кемп на всякий случай, мне кажется. Или стоп, или где он там вообще? По-моему, он... Нет, он или не в кемпе. Или... Нет, он не в кемпе. Просто типа эта гора, она огромная, и ее всю очень сложно контролить. И важно очень вовремя застакаться, чтобы сделать упор на одну сторону. Потому что может получиться как ППшка из прошлой катки. А, Китсун кемпе. Да. Не, пока еще нет. Ну, пока рядом никого нет, особо никто не быкует. Вот сейчас с этим, вот следующий прок, надо стакаться вот под нижнюю сторону. А, пон. Тогда надо стакаться в кемпе, на краю зоны здесь. И не дать возможность подойти. Потому что вот эти челиксы, они вряд ли уже будут лезть в гору. Бля, какой харшифт, сука, неприятный. Ну, я имею в виду для всех остальных, кто сверху был. Юники очень рассчитывали на верхний прок. Ну, мэды, кстати, хорошо сыграют от этой горы. Они потом дальше вот сюда, скорее всего, пойдут. Главное не пустить вот этих всех. Нави, ну Нави дальше по своей горе будут играть. Единственное, что у юников сейчас тут беда будет. Они не прочитали зону. Ты как ее такую прочитаешь? Иксы топ-16.
All of these teams. Mad Balls actually in a fairly solid spot now on the northwest, but Take Aim Gaming, ARB into conflict. Take Aim Gaming handle it very, very quickly, swiftly.
Или Нави сейчас не будут стакаться, они наоборот сейчас наглее сыграют, чтобы вообще даже ни у кого мысли не было на эту гору заезжать. Что пионером делать? Налево играть? Или они через кемп хотят? Ну, через кемп нет. Ну, вообще, TGB надо убивать, да. TGB надо убивать и играть налево.
Zerik's scouting ahead right now. Monkey's still watching for angles around the map. But as soon as they start to hear this fighting that's going to be going down between Nexus as well as Shockwave on the southwest edge.
Ну, здесь нокать надо было. Ой, хорошо. Отлично. Пусть добил, найс. Так, второго нокнули, отлично. Мобайл можно себе там... Конечно, можно. Нужно. Помнишь, что я на первой зоне сказал? На первой зоне, когда увидел. Типа, пахнет верхом. Пахнет верхом, и потом я увидел второй прок, я такой, ну все, Нави заебись. Нави хорошую гору заняли, вот, пожалуйста. В чем проблема? А уже на такой зоне тебе зона особо уже не так сильно роляет. Тут больше роляет правильное принятие решений. Ну, типа, что ты будешь первым закрывать, и на какую сторону тебе нужно сделать упор. Потому что я миллион раз видел ситуацию, что челы сидят просто обосранные всю игру в одном кемпе, а они потом просто элементарно ничего не могут сделать. Не могут отдефать его. Поэтому зона тебя ебет только, по сути, до третьего-четвертого прока. С шифтами. А потом уже поебать. Ну, не совсем прям поебать, но в целом уже больше решает скиллуха, чем зона. И тимплей твой. А эти, блядь, как сидели, так и сидят.
And they can regroup on it. But look at the damage being sent on in. Game Lord actually has something to say about that. Kitsune is knocked.
Game Lord sent a little bit further up towards the north side, but again, it's those two teams. This is why going into water treatment early on is a little bit rough. I think it's doable to defend it purely off the back that, you know, most teams that are going to head over towards position will be heavily damaged at this point in time. They're just
Бля, хелпа нужна сюда. Если где один не справится.
Mad Bulls don't have to sweep that southwest edge anymore, and because none of the teams get to the north in the first place, this is real smart play from them, taking control of the north, where they know practically no team has been able to make that wide sweep on the east or the wide sweep on the west, because they've had angles on it the whole time. Now they can really control a lot of these players down.
Кстати, интересно, что пионеры будут делать. Им, по сути, играть особо некуда дальше. Там вниз спуск open. А кто-то ног еще схавал. Про ему все. Последний прок на опыте понять практически невозможно, последний прок, но можно плюс-минус понять область, где закончится зона. И если ты будешь рассчитывать на какую-то определенную область, ты же будешь рассчитывать типа позиционку под эту область, правильно? Правильно. Ты уже будешь от этого отталкиваться. Какой тебе там кем занять, какую тебе горку занять. Доедь, не доедь. А куда ехать-то? Ну да, но только ненадолго, мне кажется.
The players from Take Aim Gaming before he was felled. The Mad Bulls were able to pick up most of those points away from them, sadly.
Ну, ДМР это не получается. Ну, вот так вот. Не угадывают зону. Ну, просто тачку заминировали, он, блядь, сесть мне не может.
Getting torn apart. Mad Bulls spreading wide over this north
side.
Oi. Taking that away from Na'Vi. Kitsune still down and Pioneer mount the hill.
Yeah, there is a good knock there coming through from Mad Bulls onto Na'Vi. And now this has really slowed down their pace, and Pioneer are able to get up with the 4 players. Pioneer have had a good day today. I've been pleased with it.
It's been going well. It's been going all right. How much more that can they do? Can they get even deeper into those tables? 4 players alive right now, 6 eliminations as currently. Only beaten out by the Unicorns of Love with 7, but they've only got Icy left. Did make his way into water treatment, by the way. So has some cover, could survive for quite a while. Avi not taking this fight, not just yet.
Don't like this play coming through from Mad Bulls.
Им, наверное, за камень надо было за нижним бегать.
It's pretty horrific. Zarek now
Что он
has to
как-то
make the
поверху
Hail
пошел.
Mary dash over towards one of the players to get skills back up in action. And Game Lord
О, сейчас Нави на медов пойдут.
whatsoever. This compound still working out towards them on the north side of water.
Смотрите, как все складывается.
And now Na'Vi looking to
Кодексы,
finish the
меды,
deal.
Нави,
It's all
пионеры.
Zarek now.
Просто,
Push
блядь,
them
с одной
back,
стороны.
them off in the distance.
И между
Shot
друг
still
другом
coming
все
through,
файтятся.
still waiting for the rest of his team, and this nade has to be
Все
good.
сверху наша
Codex
команда
got
играют.
slowed down with those knocks over, and
Говорит
now
о том,
the
что
rest of
наши
the Mad Bulls
команды
can come in to
плюс-минус
back
что-то
up the position
допонимают.
from Zarek, who's been holding it down now for the last
И у них, кстати,
couple
тоже
of
сверху играли,
seconds.
но они что-то поздно сверху
Those nades
сыграли.
back the rest of Na'Vi off.
Не словили не
Game
очень
Lord get the
удачный
shift.
хардшифт.
Both of these teams gonna have to move down.
Короче, чуваки, я думаю, что это ластовая.
Скорее
всего.
Which is not the hope for them. Death Machines spot the players on the hillside. You can see coming down from there for Mad Bulls without the smokes available to them. Goodness me, it's going to be rough. Nades from Maku now. Looks just a little bit better on target. Does a lot of damage.
Almost a little bit further in, I believe, but not going to be taking the knocks just yet. Pioneer did make this push down the hill a lot earlier, but they are right on the broadside. Like Na'Vi have
Что заныл? А ничего.
sightlines over towards the black white now.
Что, нельзя?
Cowering behind a rock. Someone looks up from water.
Я бы хотел Ливик, конечно, посмотреть, но, бля. Смотрю в записи потом.
But Mad Bulls are just slowing them down. On the back though, there's a knock. Codex are coming back.
Yeah, Codex takes two.
Что-то медов, да.
Goes down next.
Раскидали.
And that's Mad Bulls out of the game.
Я даже не успел понять,
I
что
think it
произошло.
all comes down to an overconfident push with two down towards Codex's position.
Меку в соло.
Na'Vi down to just one
А
player.
победителями вообще из всей этой ситуации вышли пионеры, ну если среди всех наших команд смотреть. Эти, блядь, обосравшие... Вот как же прокает Death Machine, ребята, это просто пиздец. Я вот сколько смотрю уже игр, им, блядь, там прокает, им тут прокает. Они просто залетают в какое-то фул говно, сидят всю игру, блядь, на жопе. Я не понимаю вообще такую игру.
Very, very safe and secure, and it is paying off. Everybody's just pummeling each other on the outside.
How has he not spotted that player yet? I think it might be because we have the X-ray, but yeah, thank you. Okay, it's not because we have
А
the
нет,
X-ray. He was blind.
победителями из... А ну да, кодекса. Хотя, если сейчас Меку переживет пионеров, ой, кодексов,
No, you'd hope so.
то...
Death Machine still have the angle,
Ой-ой-ой-ой!
but attention's over
А
towards
чё?
Codex right now. Can Neku
Ладно.
take it back? That distraction. Pushing on in.
С одна какая-нибудь халява залетит.
The last guy up
Как
on
ты
the
его
top
видишь
there.
там?
They know
Не
exactly
пон,
where he is
не
behind that
пон.
rock, but not quite finding it. Some terrain cover from Game Lord right now. But the blue not so.
Он прям в модель головы стрелял.
Still needs to come down the hillside as well.
Минус Меку,
Spotted
ну
out
да,
Na'Vi
получается,
out.
что тут
Five Limbs, fifth
Кодексы
place. I mean, Na'Vi's just
вышли.
looked like
Ну, она
overall a better
тоненького.
unit today, and so
Ну, кодекс сейчас
we'll see
следом.
more of that coming into
Победа
phase
гейлордов?
two.
Ну, не знаю, не знаю.
Now
Да,
Game Lord.
да. Есть победа геймлордов, потому что зона прокнула наверх, у них горка есть. Хотя...
Cylinders over towards
Ну
the
вот
right side.
эти Дезы не знают про Айси, то, что у них лежит под боком.
IC has been surviving
Возможно, он
this whole
кого-то
time.
подруинит.
I don't know if
Там
Death
уже ног,
Machine
кстати,
know that
но они
he's
сейчас
there.
треснутся.
Oh, he's part
Не,
of
ну
it.
Дезам
He's
очень
gonna have to
сложно
go
будет
soon.
отсюда выходить как-то. Я не знаю, есть ли у них смоки.
One of
Сейчас надо просто все засмочитесь и попробовать как-то к бочке пробежать. Потому что пробегаете к бочке, и у вас будет хоть какой-то вижен тогда наверх. Вы сможете хоть как-то распикивать. А здесь они даже пикать нормально не могут.
Because someone's... Stop it. That nade.
А, все, про Айси
Oh,
узнали.
that's Molly. Oh, that's mean. IC
Ну
definitely
вставай,
spotted.
вставай, выходи справа, убивай его.
He's out of the way, didn't get burnt there, and Nasser's out in the blue, has to drop up. IC has a chance.
Насер сам себя же... Ух, фу, блядь.
Himself.
Зачем ты кидаешь только этот молик, если ты даже попасть им не можешь?
Position given away now, but he's on the
Проще бы уж
outside.
хаешку
Death
кинуть.
Machine have a thorn in
Он
the
же под
side
тобой
to worry
лежит.
about. Needs to get one, gets the player on the vault, looks for more, but is shut down. Both very, very low, and now Game Lord
Ну тут
have
легко вообще,
all the
легчайшее
control they can hope for.
для
It's easy lineup for
геймлордов.
Victor. They're on the outside. They had to deal with Icy, but he put them on ice in return. And Game Lord take the chicken dinner.
It feels like a very unfulfilling chicken dinner coming through from Game Lord. I'm pleased to see that all four members were there at the end of the day. But I think the real victory is Icy in that situation.
sure.
And I don't want this to be another PMPL Western Europe where Icy does all the work for the team. It feels again that we're going in that direction, and it's not a direction that I like. I'd rather go the other way just because Icy is such a good player, and I think that he does need those good teammates to support him and back him up. And I think that with a little bit more time, a little bit more practice, this team could be one of the greats within this lobby. but we still have to find out. We're going to take a quick look at the match report and see exactly who came out on top. Crypto, there's one of you boys who's looking good. 6 eliminations from him, and it's really icy to take it home towards the end there. Very good plays coming out from him. The fact that he's able to get out that molly so instantaneously, just unfortunate for NASA there, John.
Yeah, it was really swift movement there coming through that jump punch, really saving the bacon. And he nearly got that spray down as well. It looked pretty good. I thought he'd managed to get it actually at first glance, but both of those players then dropped down on top of it, and it was just a little bit too much to bear. I was waiting for that miracle play, but it was third place. It was still solid from the Unicorns of Love. They'll put that one on the books very, very happily.
I mean, for Na'Vi, they gave it their all. I was really proud of Na'Vi that match, actually. And I think for Game Lord, good stuff, you make it happen. But Mad Bulls, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes we've seen from that team in a long time. It's just a big sign of overconfidence. But you know,
все, чуваки, я все. Я все. Смотрите сами дальше. Что там, Рангель, да? Ливик. А я пошел пить пиво. Да, я пошел пить пиво. Спасибо, что... Вернее, что? Кто задонатил? В скобочках 1 человек сегодня 3 соточки закинул. Отличник. Какой ты отличник, конечно. А, Санук и Ливик там будет. Ну, еще лучше. Быстрее закончится. Все, ладно, челиксы, давайте, я погнил. Получается, до... Чекайте ТГ, подпишитесь обязательно, кто еще не подписан. Ссылка в описании есть. И там будет анонс стримов. Короче, до следующей недели. Всех обнял, всем ББ. Пока.